Rant Cast! Yeah! Welcome to the Rant Cast. It's Thursday night.
Hello!
Hey, and we've got our special guest tonight, iKarith, aka Nightbird, filling in for the Strange Bus. And this is episode 27. Thanks for joining us here on twitch.tv/TheRantCastPodcast. We were talking about some familiar topics, namely what's been going on with Hasbro, or should I say HasBroken, and Wizards of the Coast, or Toast, however things may pan out. Speaking of pans, I heard you had a little, well, I don't know if you want to talk about it. Maybe it's too soon.
Yeah, I had a pan that was sent to me by Amazon, and the thing was a 1/4-inch thick iron, and it arrived in pieces.
Pieces of iron.
How do you break a pan in two inside of a box and have the box be fine?
Should have made the pan out of the box, I guess. Not so funny.
Cardboard pan on the gas stove. That'll work well.
Sure. Try anything once. All right. Well, good to have you with us. And
it's good to be here.
We've got our our large dice here. Did you say these look like the Pathfinder dice to you?
A little bit. The Pathfinder box set, the second edition box set. The dice are different colors, but I mean those colors are just like the yellow is a D4, but they look like very big versions of the Pathfinder dice that are all like deliberately the D4 is yellow and the D6 is, I think, red. It's a very nice idea. I kind of wish that was more of a thing and that there were sets of dice in standard colors so that it'd be very fast to teach people how to play games that use these things. Grab the green one. That's your D10.
Yeah. Now, I didn't realize. I'm totally new to the D&D world. Welcome to the D&D world. This one has 0 to 9, but there's also another one that's like has different numbers on it, like double digits, and that's percentages. So how are you supposed to do that?
The idea for that, and yeah, you haven't done much D&D, and actually modern versions of D&D don't use it as much as older versions do, but the idea for there exists a 100-sided die. It looks like a golf ball, and of course
it is a golf ball.
It has the problem that it will roll right off your table.
Yeah, I've seen ones that are completely round.
So yeah,
people are
so
crazy.
What they came up with instead was you can take 2 D10s of different colors, or one will be numbered 0 to 9, and one will be numbered 00 to 90. And you roll both of those, and by the power of math, you get 100 sides.
Bohemia say. Okay. So instead of having to do the goofy thing, you can do the slightly more efficient thing. More practical.
We're D&D players. It's all goofy things.
Goofy things. Well, I find a lot of kinship with the D&D players just through my own experience with HeroQuest, but at the same time, I understand it's like an independently developed thing that's been going on since the 70s, so I defer to someone with more experience, which is why it's good to have.
The thing about HeroQuest was originally Hasbro, and remember that it was a Milton Bradley game, but Hasbro already owned Milton Bradley.
Exactly. Yeah.
So,
in 89.
This was Hasbro's idea, saying, this D&D thing is really popular, but we've got this brand that makes Monopoly. let's make a D&D Monopoly, something like that.
Yeah.
And they produced this game that I've seen people actually using their HeroQuest boards to make D&D dungeons, and
you can do it.
You definitely see a bookcase and a throne, and it's like, I know where you got those from.
Yeah. Well, and I think Amalgamash, to his credit, always to his credit, he somehow was able to acquire quite a few board games of the era, fantasy tabletop games of the era, and I think through watching his stuff and realizing, looking it up, Board Game Geek, it's like, okay, actually, there were a lot of attempts to do what HeroQuest did back in the
day. Including some
before
by
and after.
Yeah. PSR, who was like, we own D&D, and that wasn't the only one. They had 2 or 3 attempts at it. We own this, but that HeroQuest market, people like that game, so let's see if we can bring them into the D&D world.
Welcome to the D&D world. Yeah, the unique thing about HeroQuest, I don't know if it's what caused it to succeed or if it's just better marketing or what, but the furniture was the thing, the 3D furniture, because before that you'd had 3D figures, but the furniture was cardboard or it was just flat on the board. It wasn't.
You should look up. What is it? Before Dragon Strike, the other one that they came up with. It was a TSR game.
Dungeon with the exclamation point. There was the D&D adventure game. I think that was later.
There was one that literally had like tiny. All of the monsters were little like. Tiny restaurant trifold tents. It was ridiculous.
Interesting.
It came with, hundreds of monsters, but they were all little strips of cardboard you would separate and then fold them into, little restaurant advertisement teepees.
That's hilarious.
And they were tiny because they were the scale of a miniature, and they blew away about as much as you would expect they would.
Table tents. Well, I mean, that's the sort of thing that my friends and I would make and say, okay, this is our game. We made a game, as opposed to like, I'm gonna buy this, that somebody else made, and that's my game. So. I've got all this stuff. This is all new to me. I mean, I'd heard of Dungeons & Dragons since I was a kid. It was the cartoon show, the Saturday morning cartoon show. And I think I saw there were these, I'm trying to think how big they were, maybe like 8-inch, like solid hard rubber figures that were not posable at all, of like orcs and, I don't know, footmen and stuff like that. And I think there was like, I had a couple of elves, one of which I lost in the backyard like shortly after bringing it home. And some of these like Norsemen or whatever they were, but that was pretty much it. It was just like if I'd heard of the game, I thought it was just a game of the imagination. You're walking down a corridor and this thing happens, and I don't think I even really understood the dice or anything like that. But it was almost before my time. Like all that stuff had happened, and then in the 90s it was. You had the arcade video games. Now you had a lot of computer games that were advertised in magazines, so I've heard of those, and it's like, okay, Dragonlance, what is that? Forgotten Realms, what is that? I don't know, but just these terms, and of course now it's so mainstream.
Dragonlance, Forgotten Realms, Ravenloft. These are different campaign worlds. That originally there was just kind of not really a world. It was just all one world or sprawling, or it whatever it is, you decide whatever it's going to be. And then people started saying, hey, that one that they've got, I like that one, that Blackmore that Dave Arneson is running, that's really cool. And that eventually became Greyhawk, kind of evolved into the original Moldvay D&D had a world Mystara, which you still hear old timers talking about.
Yeah. Shadow of
Mystara
Mystara was one of the arcade games. Yeah, the second one.
Yeah, Mystara is such a well-developed world. It's amazing because it's as developed as the old world of Warhammer.
Fantasy.
Yeah, and I mean, very similar sort of. These peoples are sort of inspired-ish a little by our world, but Games Workshop kind of took the effort to sort of make these people kind of fit geographically somewhat like our world, kind of a little. Mystara's like, what happens if you don't, and you deliberately mix these up so that you've got, the things that are kind of inspired by Mongol barbarians right next to Arthurian knights. And over here, I mean, the idea of kind of lost in time also. So the idea that there could be something a little more high tech than any of that, something more like a modern or even sci-fi could drop in. I mean, I've seen some crazy stuff.
Which is the perfect excuse when you're doing a game, because then you can just say, "Oh, well, you want to change the scenery? Boom, there it is." Or you want to.
What would happen if
things fight?
Let's find out.
Let's do it. Yeah. So we've got a few topics tonight. We're going to be talking about the lack of information coming out of Avalon Hill at this time, after we just had that bombshell about the layoffs and losing two of our key people that we talk to a lot. I'm not saying me personally, but the fans in the community online, and Carmine, Chris Nato, and William Mort, Avalon Bill. And then kind of all the inevitable speculation about the future of HeroQuest. And I think maybe some people have gotten me wrong, maybe seen some of my statements out of context and thought maybe I was saying something as if I knew something. But I'm
Y'all type too much.
I'm right there with everybody else in that I don't know anything more than what you're seeing. So I don't know how many copies of HeroQuest they've sold, or how many they're trying to get rid of, or what they're planning, other than what we already have heard, which is that we basically got a year's worth of expansions that we presume are still coming out, regardless of the changes. And we haven't heard about any other prominent people leaving or being cut. And I think the latest discussion we were having was that kind of what we've seen some other companies. I mean, anybody that's part of a large corporation probably has seen this. Like, they do layoffs, and then they like retrain or restructure and like combine. Like, they'll take some people from over here and move them over there to fulfill the duties that were vacated by the people that were let go, as opposed to hiring all new people that they're going to have to give raises to or fire again, to try to.
Right.
If they're trying to, if they're doing it to save money, I mean, it still sucks for those people, of course. But it does leave a lot of questions, as opposed to like, okay, well, let's say they take somebody else from the Avalon Hill team and shoot them into that spot. So are they going to have the same freedom and
there are
do what was done before, or what?
I didn't post as much on the Avalon Hill Discord. We may have some people from the Avalon Hill Discord watching tonight, but
yep. And to those people, I want to say you're absolutely right. I am absolutely wrong. I tend to run my mouth, so.
Oh God, yes.
Say what you gotta say.
So, go for it. I posted more over on HeroQuest fans about stuff, and
me too.
Generally speaking, I'd like to say that I would think I was pretty good at understanding. I started out mostly. I understand about development of stuff in China and how long it takes to actually go from sending it over, please make this, to getting it back and ready to ship out to everybody. I mean, I know something about this firsthand. So
Interesting.
I knew about things like the timing, and I was able to comment about these things on the HeroQuest fans Discord. And Chris told me a couple of times, during I commented, it takes about 10 months, I would estimate, for anything that they send off to China to get made to arrive at store shelves. I don't think they can do it in much less than that. And Chris responded to me on that. He said, 10 months, and it was middle of COVID time, so 10 months, if we're lucky. So
Supply chains.
yeah, so stuff that was planned for 2024, I'm pretty sure that's all safe, just because most of that stuff is already very near ship it or already in the process of getting shipped. And I mean manufactured, produced, packaged, shipped, distributed. I mean, a lot of people don't really deal with the retail sort of things much, but like, for example, my local game store has boxes of HeroQuest, but they don't have expansions.
Oh, mine
because their distributor can't get them. And I don't know if that's changed. I haven't been to my friendly local game store in a couple of years because I don't get out much.
Hey, that's okay. I mean, my friendly local game store, and I'm not like in a big coastal city or anything, but they have the game system and all the expansions. They've still got the big box.
That's
though.
cool.
I want to say it's been there since they got it. Like, they haven't sold it, unless they literally, like, when it gets bought, they swap it out for one in the back.
They probably have a few of them, but only a few.
My GameStop has like 2 of the newer, the slim box. I call it the slim box. The 2022 one, the smaller game system.
It's possible
but no
that
expansions.
they'll
get the expansion the day it comes out, and then it's gone. And I got one of the...
Yeah.
When Rise of the Dread Moon came in, I bought it. Like, they had 1 copy.
It's possible that their distributor still has the big box because they're probably not going through them as fast as a GameStop or an Amazon. So they may have them. And that gets into the thing, Hasbro gets these things into their warehouses. They send them out to distributors. Distributors send them out to retail. And, we were talking before about why Hasbro might be trying to encourage people to buy from them directly, because there's a couple of layers of somebody else getting money that they could get that. And, I mean, they're definitely not losing any profit. I mean, or they're not losing money selling it through Amazon or GameStop, but they're making more of it if they're selling it for the same price themselves.
Yeah. Let's talk about that a little bit, because I think, and Carmine definitely talked to certain people at certain times, and I thought, gee, you seem to know some things a little bit faster than some others. So But I do remember him answering some of those questions. He would jump in. This is before the Avalon Hill Discord even got started. And he would say, well, actually, and he would, lay down a little bit of stuff, which was helpful because I don't know how board games, get made. It's like when a mommy board game and a daddy board game love each other very much. It's like, okay. And the store brings it to your door. And it's like, all right. So,
I'm sure he's not watching, but if for some reason he is, Chris, we love you, buddy.
Yeah. Well, and I remember he came to the Rant Cast, and I joked that, like, nobody watches the Rant Cast. Like, I watch the Rant Cast. It's like, thank you. Yeah, he was really cool. So I hope that the next person to fill his shoes is given that same level of freedom and takes the same level of care that he did with regards to us.
And there will be a person who does that. You may have noticed that despite the fact that Avalon Hill had a pretty good sized team, we had direct interface with Bill, and we had interface with Chris. And the reason for that, and we occasionally heard from other people too, but Patrick might come in and show some things, but
Doug Hopkins did more of his stuff through blogs, it seemed like.
Yeah, but the thing is, anything that any of those guys do is going to be approved. Anything they tell us is going to be stuff. And I mean, Patrick could be like, hey, Chris is out of the office, so I'm going to sneak a peek and show you what's on his desk. Like... Okay, that's a lot of fun. And I mean, I hope I'm not taking too much of the wind out of the sails of whoever gets to do that now, but...
It's theater.
There's a lot of theater to that. It's all stuff that's been approved to be shown.
Do you remember that first video they did where, if you look at it now, it's like, wow, look at these guys. They were all like clean cut and everything, a few years younger. And it was like, wow, this is super scripted. Like you could see them reading the cue cards or whatever. But it's just like, these are game designers. They're not necessarily like PR people, all of them. So, but it was just kind of funny how that started. But you don't get that in a chat room. You just see the response. It's like, oh, he's just telling me
stuff. If you think about it, Linus Tech Tips. I know that we're all nerds. Linus Tech Tips, and they've I don't know if they have recovered from the kerfuffle a couple of months back, but their content looks, or at least looked, very amateur hour. They are very good at making it look like they are just completely half-assing this shit, and they have no idea what they're doing, and it's all just completely... And, they do have things unscripted, like they used to show that one clip of, what's her name? I cannot think of it. Where she accidentally knocked over a computer tower, and it's like, hey, the boss drops shit all the time, don't worry about it. But...
Scratch and dent sale.
A big part of what makes that channel successful, or did make it successful, was that they managed to make something that was relatively clean, relatively polished, but it looked like it wasn't. I mean, it's kind of Blair Witch Project sort of vibes, except for people making computer stuff. It looks like a couple of guys are filming, with their phones or whatever. But then you see other videos where they're talking about, the 8K red cameras that they bought that, the fucking memory card for it costs half a car or something. Wow.
See, I pretty much do the same thing as they do, except that I really am low budget and amateur.
Yeah.
Don't have that stuff. I just realized these are different colors. Not that it matters, but...
Yes, they are.
Yeah. So the mythic.
You're asking the blind guy for his opinion on color, though.
And well, if you can tell, then it must really be dramatic.
One of them is a shinier plastic.
Yeah. So
this is
This is Mage of the Mirror. This is Mythic game system. So.
Yeah, slightly different plastic.
Different batch. Yeah.
So basically, whoever takes over that role. And it's quite possible they don't have somebody in that role yet. Mm-hmm. Whoever takes over that role that we had for, that Chris was in, or that Bill was in. And I mean, I think there's somebody who's doing that because apparently there were tweets. I didn't see them.
Well, it was on Avalon Hill's Twitter, whatever, X, whatever they call it.
Yeah, you used to make a tweet. Now you're making slinging sheet or whatever.
Hey,
which is much more appropriate for Twitter, in my opinion.
Let's be honest, that's what people were doing all along.
Yep.
But yeah, so I think we can finally lay to rest that rumor that it was not Doug Hopkins, it was Avalon Bill, it was Zargon the whole time.
Probably.
Unless, as he claims, Zargon actually did take over his account and lock him out of it. In which case, we'll never know.
I mean, I gotta say, I was seriously wondering.
Man, his jokes were bad. They were so bad.
Seriously wondering if somebody forgot to get Bill's password for the Discord. I think Bill is the owner of the Discord, and he might still be.
You know, but correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't it just? It was called HeroQuest, and then they changed it to Sargon.
The Twitter name was, yeah.
Yeah, because Avalon Hill is a separate one. Avalon Hill is still Avalon Hill, but I wonder if Zargon. Maybe it was his personal one.
Somebody said something about, and I forget who now. I am sorry, I'm terrible with names, so I'm forgetting you, and you deserve to not be forgotten. But somebody on the Avalon Hill mentioned catastrophic tweets. And of course, I don't use Twitter at all, so I have no idea what they're talking about.
And it used to be you could just view them without being a member, but now you have to be. I mean, it goes back and forth like that.
Well, again, it's going back to Elon Musk and flinging sheet.
Yeah. So I'm not sure which tweets people are talking about, but let's pause just 1 second here and back up. We did have some comments here. So Lee or Lex, sorry about that. Dragon Quest. Was Dragon Quest the game we were trying to think of?
Yes.
Earlier? Okay.
I mean, they're all called Dragon something. It's hard to keep them all straight.
Yeah, there was Legend of Zagor, Dark World, Dungeon's Quest, or Dungeon Quest. I forget. One's the modern day ripoff.
Dungeon.
Yeah, Dungeon with an exclamation point. The D&D adventure game. Talisman. Altar Quest is a modern game.
It is modern, yeah.
And of course, HeroQuest, and there was a ripoff of HeroQuest. I forget what it was called. It was like Hero something. Like it has artwork that's very reminiscent of the Les Edwards painting, but it's like a comic book style, and it has just cardboard.
There was somebody did a Brazilian translation of HeroQuest that used the cartoony artwork. It's on Ye Olde Inn as the Brazilian version. I don't think that is actually. I think that was
the Brazil. You know what? I would love to have a copy.
A fan created this.
Yeah, that was definitely fan created. A lot of the stuff on Ye Olde Inn is fan created and it's mixed in, but it's clearly labeled if you look. I would love.
I frankly like it.
Yeah, I would love to own a copy of the Brazilian HeroQuest. The only thing about it is, just like with getting the Japanese HeroQuest, which I would also love to own, I would also kind of feel like a little bit wrong, a little bit dirty, a little bit bad, like I'm denying an actual person from Brazil or Japan from owning this, because I was thinking like they don't have their own localized version anymore. I don't even think the new game is translated into Portuguese yet, and except for fan translation.
The thing is, if you got your hands on a Japanese or a Brazilian or both, we don't actually have full high quality scans of those like we do all of the other editions.
That's true, and if someone were to accidentally, on purpose, scan some of that stuff for historical study purposes, of course, then that would be fortunate for certain people.
I'm
allegedly.
Oh hell, not allegedly. Somebody asked me on a site where file copying of things that are probably Linux ISOs. Yes, we'll go with that for the moment.
Not officially endorsed by the Rantcast.
Yes.
They commented that based on the amount of storage space I have devoted to such activities, they said, "Did you secretly take over the Pirate Bay when it went down sometime?" And I'm like, if I'd done that, it wouldn't have been a secret. So
I don't know what you're talking about, matey.
Yar. So at this point, Hasbro's not making the Japanese or Portuguese version. They're not bringing it back, and even if they were, the old versions,
They were unique.
they were unique, and people want to have them. And I definitely, if they put out, a Neef Island,
I would so love to see that.
if they tweak, you probably have to tweak it so it was, an expansion rather than a base game to be able to fit it into the world that they've already got.
I would weep on camera like Star Wars Theory. Well, maybe not.
I would absolutely buy a copy of that, because hell yeah.
What was interesting about, and a lot of this is stuff that I didn't know, so there's other people that knew this way before I did, but the version that was released in Brazil, unlike most of the other versions outside the US, it was the same as the US rules. It was the North American rules, except in Portuguese. And a lot of people said, oh, there was no plastic in the box, it was all cardboard. Not true, but a lot of it was cardboard. They had cardboard standees instead of miniature figures. So the cool thing about that, though, is people have scanned those, and you can see like the color choices, and you can actually use that as like a painting guide if you want to, for each of the characters. And the sorcerer's table and the tomb were like papercraft, like cardboard, which is not true of any of the other versions. All the other versions were plastic, and then they had a little cardboard base that you could put it on. I want to say the doors were still plastic, the weapons rack was still plastic, the bookcases and like everything else, but it was just those
I suspect
two pieces.
the brown plastic was in the box, and the doors were there, but the other plastic, the other sprues were probably skipped.
It was either a cost saving measure. I mean, some people were saying, well, maybe it had something to do with Games Workshop. Maybe they didn't license it, but that doesn't make sense, because there's still Chaos Warriors, and there's still Familiars, and there's still, all the lore and everything, and the imagery is there. It's just not cast into plastic. But I'm sure, on the one hand, Brazilian players like now would be like they'd rather have the plastic like everybody else has. But at the same time, it's like that's a cool piece of history. And the other thing is the armory, instead of having like the paintings of the weapons and everything, they're just like sketches. They're like drawings. And so it's like, okay, that looks cheap. That doesn't look as cool. But still, if that's the version you grew up with,
I would still love to have full quality scans of all of those things.
Yeah.
And if getting that, somewhere into the US, into somebody's hands, so that they can get it all scanned properly, so that we can actually have this version. And I mean, obviously he doesn't represent the company anymore, and what he said years ago may not apply in the future, but Chris said that Hasbro was, and the team had to go to bat for Ye Olde Inn, because that site is one giant copyright infringement if Hasbro really wanted to push it.
Yeah, they
and
could.
We know it, they know it, but it also fueled the community. Nothing on it is being sold anymore. I mean, the only thing that was ever sold on the website is Ron Shirt's tiles, and they were entirely his own creation.
Yeah, those were new creations, right? Well, and Ye Olde Inn itself was a revival of an earlier fan site, Dwayne Egan's.
Yes.
Before that, or Egan's Inn. And so it was like that bridge from the end, or let's say the mid to late 90s, when the game actually stopped. Like, it was dwindling in stores and disappearing. And those fans carried it on and into the 2000s, with the new site. I want to say it was like 2008, around that time, when Ye Olde Inn was like completed, when they finally got all the sections from the old site and revamped it. Something like that. I
don't know that much about the history, but what I do know is that Chris said the
Light touch.
the site, they're happy with that site. I mean, they know as well as we do that they could go after that.
They could shut the whole thing down, except for the custom stuff. Well,
but they don't need to.
No.
They're not required to.
Can I say
and
this?
it's not hurting anything. It's actually helping.
Yeah,
That site is driving the sales of the current version.
Yeah. Well, and I agree with that, and I'm glad that they see it that way. First of all, because I don't want to see people get in trouble. But second, I've always said this about like the quests that are out there, the fan-made quests from the 90s and everything else. That's like extra value. Like when I see a game box and it's like, oh, I can buy this game. Oh wait, there's like hundreds of mods for it that I can get for free. Well, now it's for sure. Now for sure I'm going to buy it.
Right.
Because I can, even if I don't like what's in here, I can enjoy all that stuff. Or tweak that.
It's actually interesting because what you've got in front of you for 5th edition is
that'll be the next
what
topic.
I don't actually own any D&D books.
Okay. Well, supposedly Gary Gygax said something to the effect of we shouldn't tell people that they don't have to buy our books.
Right. And that's exactly it. Back in about like 2015 or so, Critical Role got started, and I didn't know about, because I don't really Twitch much.
Oh, I Twitch all the time.
I've
seen a
noticed that,
though. Yeah.
But I didn't really use Twitch as a platform. I didn't even have an account. So when that got started in 2015, I didn't find out about it till the first videos hit YouTube about 8 weeks in. And I'm like, oh, damn, this is so much fun. And I was dead broke. And I just had some dice, some polyhedral dice.
Hey,
just a couple of sets.
iKarith, you go ahead, keep talking. I'm going to go grab something here for the camera. You go ahead.
Okay. So I sat down and I made some rules of my own. They were very simple rules, and they were based on what I was seeing on Critical Role. So based on 5e mechanics, and kind of the old school games I played in the 90s. And, I kidnapped 3 friends for a couple of hours one afternoon to play it. We had a lot of fun. And we kept playing it. I can't actually, just because of my visual disability, I can't actually use a DM screen. And if I want to read something, I've got to hold it up to my face. So what I ended up coming up with for myself was something based on...
There's my old dice.
Nice. That's a little hard on me because of the contrast, but...
Yeah, I liked it because it was purple. Now, I got these thinking that I was going to join my friend's game. Didn't happen. But...
Hey, you still got... And you got the golf ball.
Yep. Well, not the true golf ball. This is... what is this?
60?
60, yeah. Yeah, it is. And it's got a tiny little imperfection in it, so it's not going to win any tournaments. But, yeah, before Ribby's mentor bot kind of took over everything, I use these a lot playing HeroQuest. So it's like, oh, random monster, there's that, or, oh, here's your percentage dice. I see it now.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, and I was like, why did they give me 2? Didn't look that closely. There's that one.
So to finish my story, I built these rules, and we ended up having a campaign that lasted a couple of years. And I stopped working. I never wrote any of this stuff down. And it was a functioning game system. If I'd written it down, I probably would have given it away because that's me, but I've gotten into about the time I was getting ready to actually buy these books, because I'm like, they're going to replace 5th edition. There's going to be 6th edition. I had no idea what that was going to look like, but I wanted the 5th edition books, so I was going to get them. And I decided that this was going to happen January 2023. I
just realized they didn't give me a D6 with this. Anyway.
In fact, I decided I was going to buy these books January 2nd, 2023.
Okay.
And the evening of January 2nd, 2023, we started hearing about a new version of the Open Game License, version 1.1, and it isn't good.
Oh, yes. The day everything
My plans for buying the D&D 5th edition books evaporated. I didn't get them. I did get a copy of Old School Essentials, a copy of Lamentations of the Flame Princess, copy of Morkborg or Morkborg. I'm an American. I'm going to screw it up. So whatever. I got a copy. I put. It came along in a little later, the end of February, after the OGL stuff had been settled. I have some thoughts on that.
Yeah.
But
something has survived.
A game called Shadowdark came along, and I saw there's a PDF on DriveThruRPG that gives you enough to understand how that game works. It's like 2 PDFs, one for players and one for GMs.
That's what I forgot to do before the stream. I was at a friendly local game shop, and they handed me like this little free pamphlet, and it's not Shadowdark or any of these other games that I've heard of. These simplified, D&D in a light or in a pamphlet or whatever. But it was that sort of thing. It was like I was flipping through it, and they're like talking about saving throws and clerics and thieves, and I'm just like, this sounds like Dungeons and Dragons, but it's not. And
well, see,
I should have grabbed it to show it.
All of these games, and I brought up Shadowdark because Shadowdark looks like about the time I stopped working on what I had been doing, which was right around 2020. Kelsey Dion started working, and where I ended up was where she started. So I'm not a game designer, she is. And she developed something that's way cool because it's got the biggest thing about it seems like such a little thing, is the character sheet is half a page. So it is no big deal. If your character dies, you roll up a new one. And a lot of old school games are like that, where life is cheap for your character. Yeah, no big deal. The character sheet is really short. Yeah,
the next adventure.
Looks exactly like the last one for some reason.
Except he's got a mustache.
That means he's from the universe where they
have mustaches. Yes.
But it's so easy to just roll up a new character, and even to roll up a random character, and that's fun. But your characters go into the darkness, and they had better have light, because
darkness.
Nobody can see in the dark. Nobody can see in the dark except the monsters
and Riddick.
And your players,
he's kind of a monster.
Torches last 1 hour of real time. So
yeah, that whole real time thing with D&D kind of blew my mind away. Like to say,
D&D doesn't often use real time like that, but Shadowdark does for Torches. And unless the DM is being really mean, the GM, because it's not D&D.
Yeah.
If your GM is not, deliberately, just constantly, they're attacking your torch. The CM. If they're not doing that,
Catacomb Master. Maybe.
Your players are not going to run out of torchlight, probably. But they don't think about that. They're thinking, oh man, I've only got 2 torches left. and I need to light one of them right now, and if something happens, I'm only going to have one torch left, and it took me an hour and a half to get here, and I don't know when I'm going to get out of here, and then if I'm trapped in the dark, I'm dead.
There's
so
right there.
Yep, that's a flaw.
Yeah. I do want to acknowledge some comments here, because I feel like this is going to happen.
I'm not watching the Twitch, so I'm not seeing them.
Yeah, I know you're not. And I feel like we're going to jump back and forth, mostly because of me, between talking about HeroQuest and talking about D&D. But you can tell that there's definitely some love here. Okay, we're speaking of a tough love here. But I want to acknowledge some comments. So Bohemius was talking about what he was ranting about, the catastrophic tweets.
Yes.
Oh, but he had a comment before that. Let me just acknowledge, because I don't want you to think I'm ignoring you, Bohemius. He says, I don't know about that. World of Warcraft miniatures had the new edition ready to ship. Everything was ready, even published. All previews, pre-ordered, and minis never got sent around 2010. So I missed all of that World of Warcraft miniatures. I didn't even know there was one.
Games Workshop, you guys are definitely not listening to this podcast.
Yikes.
But release the other half of the fucking armies.
And don't sue us, but yes, what he said. Also, Bohemius says...
I don't even play Warhammer, and I'm like...
Either.
You've got these armies that people have put thousands of dollars into, and then you're going to bring them back, except, we're only bringing back half of them, and screw the other half.
Listen, the players need to take control. But I suppose they could just ban you from the store, because that whole model is based around.
Oh, have.
You come to the Warhammer store, and you pay your $5, and you sit there and you play our game, and if we don't like you, we can just kick you out.
And you'd better be using our paints on those models.
Otherwise, who cares? You're like, listen, iKarith, my friend, mi amigo, like you and me, like we're gonna have a fight, and this is gonna be your army right here, and here's gonna be my army, and we agree that these are legitimate, okay? So we're gonna have our game of Warhammer, and it's gonna be great, and no one can tell us otherwise. But
it's called one-page rules. It's not the best system I've ever seen, but it has the advantage of it's one fucking page. Print it out, read it, go over it, and play whatever miniatures you want. If you want to use Game Workshop miniatures, use Game Workshop miniatures. If you want to use Mantic miniatures, you sort out what these things can do, you agree on the point values for these things, you sit down and you have your battle. And you don't need some corporate assholes telling you. Mm-hmm. I warned some people who I mentioned, hey, I'm going to be doing this. I said there's going to be ranting and bad language. So mostly from me tonight.
We always put a strong language warning on all the rant casts. It's it's the Rant Cast. Yeah. Well,
seriously, stop. If this bothers you, stop making a point of making this corporation the center of your ability to enjoy these things.
Yeah. A little goodwill goes a long way. And I feel like that's what I've gotten from Avalon Hill with HeroQuest. And that's why I'm always so nervous and on edge about, like, what if they try to take this away? I'm going to be so pissed. I mean, and I can walk away. I can walk away from it so easily. I mean, I'm going to say my piece first, but then I'm going to walk away. Because I've got the games. Like, I'm already set. I was set before.
I'm not walking away from the games.
But I
may walk away from the company if I need to, but I won't walk away from the games.
But I feel bad for all the people out there who can't find an affordable set, who remember the game or were introduced to it, and then all of a sudden you decided to corrupt it into something stupid. So,
you know about my idea for that.
But let me say this, for the people on Discord, I did not say that is what will happen. I did not say that they are taking away HeroQuest. What I'm saying is, if that were to happen, that would be the bad thing. that would piss me off. Okay, continue, please.
So
Your
I
idea.
had an idea, and it's based on the same idea of what I was talking about with D&D, that other people have created that game, and I mean they have created the game that is not the D&D trademark game, but they have created effectively the same experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I've talked to you about this before. My notion of an idea for kind of a peasant quest.
Yes, I remember that.
The idea being that we come up with you would be using standard D6, but you would designate the 3 through 6 would be equivalent to your skulls, and 2 and 3 would be equivalent to your white shields, and the 1 would be your black shield.
Mm-hmm.
Or you would always, the other option would be you would always aim for roll high, and if you are Zargon rolling defense, you defend on a 6. If you're a hero rolling defense, you defend on a 5 or a 6. If you're attack,
it makes sense. I once you have a sense
one
of the game,
those things,
it's easy to do that. I really like the simplicity of just being able to look at one of these and go, oh, that's a skull, that's bad. Oh, that's that thing that it's. But yeah, it's the same idea.
The idea was you could use combat dice if you've got them.
Mm-hmm. That's cool.
And the idea I had in my mind, thinking the same idea as the one-page rules, would be to describe the general rules for how HeroQuest is played on a single piece of paper,
mm-hmm.
and come up with like the quest or whatever it was, the Brazilian one, with the little standees, and come up with standees that'll actually that they'll actually stand up straight. I mean, not blow over, not paper tents.
It helps if you use cardstock, yeah.
Something that you might stick, like get a pack of washers from the hardware store or something as bases.
You can use little plastic, plastic standees.
Or binder clips. Binder clips.
Yes, yep. There's a lot of things you can improvise.
Or binder clips glued to washers. That would be really sturdy.
Buy little wooden cubes and turn them into dice. Of course, they're not going to be perfect.
But the idea was come up with something, because I assume you probably can get standard board game dice pretty easily.
Yeah.
Not quite that sort of thing. That's a little harder. But describe how HeroQuest is played on like a single sheet of paper.
Mm-hmm.
There'll be some jargon involved, but the idea is it would be easy to translate into whatever language you speak.
Yeah.
And sure. That would be good even if you could get a hold of the actual game, because translate this one piece of paper and then you have, you have the fundamentals of the game, and the rest is,
Tell me if you've heard this, and I love your idea. Tell me if you've heard this. So apparently in places like Spain, like they keep selling out of the Spanish version of HeroQuest. And so people are like ordering the English version and using like fan translations into Spanish.
The fan translations are better anyway.
Well, yeah, there is that too.
The localization team for the Spanish version of HeroQuest 2021. Oof.
Some of the ancient mistakes I really like the fact that the elf is referred to as the troll is awesome to me. But yeah, some things, like I want to say like 2 of the spells are the same, even though they're like completely different spells. I can't remember now which ones they were, but yeah, there's like little mistakes.
Fire spells probably.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, you've got 2 Fire of Wrath, or I think it was the wizard started with a broadsword that he can't use.
Awesome.
He just has it. It's like, all right. Anybody need a broadsword? Or it's like, well, I guess
I'll use my broadsword.
And Fire of Wrath. Yeah, or maybe that's a special broadsword that he can use. I mean, so so that's kind of weird to me. But let me just credit Bohemius for these comments. So we're getting to you, Bohemius. Okay. So he says that the catastrophic tweets was me. I was ranting about the lack of updates, lack of engagement. They abandoned the public relations, and right after the Hasbro layoffs, the bad timing with the catastrophic tweets. Yeah, it's like all of a sudden, hey guys, we're going to tell you more about Against the Ogre Horde and the new arena mode that's going to happen, and I'm fired. And it's like, crap, what just happened? And then it's like, oh, hey, got a question for you. Would you like to see?
I seriously wonder if Bill didn't give them his password.
We're not telling you to hold the password for ransom, but all right, I'm not going to comment on that. It's like, well, they never asked me. I don't know. Then they basically dropped this question on whoever it was anonymously on Avalon Hill, as if USopoly was going to come in and start doing themed versions of HeroQuest, and like, oh brother. So let me just put it to you, iKarith. Just one question, then I got to go back to the responses here in the chat. What would you say to the idea of they did a one-off HeroQuest box that's set in Forgotten Realms or Dragonlance or whatever the name of the Mystara? I don't see. I sound like an idiot, but like whatever the D&D world is, and it was like a merger of the two, but just as a one-off side adventure box that you could buy. Would you think that would be a good idea or bad idea?
I think it would be a bad idea, but not for probably the reason other people would think it would be a bad idea. I think that they already have a product line that is. They already have what is essentially a D&D HeroQuest. They have, and they were good games. They haven't really updated them or put out more of them because they were based on 4th edition rules. They have the board games like Wrath of Ashardalon and they got a Castle Ravenloft version, Legend of Drizzt. That version, that one is less good than some of the others, but like I've got the Ravenloft one, and it's a nice game. It plays a little differently than HeroQuest. It has different rules than HeroQuest. You're playing with essentially stripped down D&D characters with D&D character sheets as cards, but it's like that is what D&D as HeroQuest looks like.
Oh, okay.
And
say the name again. Wrath of Ashwelon.
Wrath of Ashardalon. Anybody who's like the D&D players in the audience know what I'm talking about.
Okay.
There were board games.
Sorry,
there were D&D board games.
The noob guy asking the question.
And they're pretty good.
Okay. So they should just bring something like that back rather than trying to do.
They could have, and they won't do it for 5th edition because they're moving on.
D&D working together. They're cops. Like it would be a big publicity stunt, and then just insert that old game stuff in there. Well, I wonder though, these D&D board games, what was the purpose just to have just a game in and of itself? Was it to simplify it for people who wouldn't normally play D&D, or was it supposed to be a stepping stone that like invites you into that world?
All of those things.
All of them? Okay. Because I had heard that Stephen Baker was influenced by D&D when he was making the first version of HeroQuest, which we never saw. It was a lot more complex and roleplay light. Maybe more like
a link to one of them.
Okay, thanks. But yeah, what we ended up getting with I didn't get it, but Advanced HeroQuest. Some say that was closer to what he was working with, but it was hard for people to understand who hadn't played games like that before. And so the HeroQuest we eventually got in 89 and 90 was kind of like the perfect merger between the two. I mean, I still see it's a little bit hard for some people to understand, like people who just play like deck building games. But it's kind of like if you've seen a couple of fantasy movies and you kind of like know a couple board game concepts, it's pretty easy to pick up. So
yeah,
I know LaGuardia De Morcar, Cristobal, Spanish-speaking guy who's really big on YouTube. He had some speculation about this, which was to say that maybe they're going to wrap up the whole HeroQuest franchise and just direct people towards like, hey, buy D&D, which makes me think of I don't know if that's really going to happen. I kind of doubt it, but it makes me think of an event from my childhood where I used to subscribe to this science magazine or science fiction magazine called Omni, which I was really excited
I
about.
know that. Yeah.
Yeah, and if for older people or younger people who don't know what that is, if you watch Jurassic Park, the little kid is talking about, well, I was reading about this in Omni, and it's like that's what he's talking about. Anyway, I subscribed to that magazine because for years, like anytime we would go to the grocery store and I would see it in the news rack, I'd be like, oh, we got to get this, and my parents would get it for me. And then finally, I got a subscription, and I want to say I had it for like a year and a half or something. And then I just got this letter in the mail. It said, your subscription is ending, but here's a copy of Discover the World of Science instead. And I was like, that's not what I wanted. I mean, I read it, but it was just kind of like, it's not the same. So, but the magazine was over. They couldn't do anything more.
That's happened to a lot of magazines.
Yeah, and those days are long gone. But yeah, I'll if I find an old issue of a magazine I used to read, I'd leaf through it. It just brings back those memories of, just like you see screenshots of a game and just like a paragraph description, and you're just trying to imagine what it's like before you actually see it, or just some of the reviews were just very witty, they were very funny, a lot of jokes, and they would post tips and tricks and Easter eggs, before it was easy to find that stuff on the internet. So it was cool, and the ads were just way over the top. They were so like deceptive and annoying. But
so the fourth edition based D&D board games are apparently completely out of print now. I
Okay.
sent you a link to one that still exists on Amazon, but that's pretty much stock on hand. When it's gone, it's going away.
The D&D adventure game, I didn't know what that was until I found it in HeroScribe. HeroScribe.org is a very old fan-made quest builder for HeroQuest before HQuest Builder and Quest Booklet and all that stuff were out. But it has all the icons for classic HeroQuest, but it also has it for other games like Space Crusade, and one of them is the D&D adventure game. And I was like, oh, I wonder what that is, and I looked it up and I was like, oh, cool. And then it's like, oh, it's $300. Never mind. So I didn't get it. But it's an out of print thing, and apparently people like it. So
hey, that's like 1/3 of a Mythic box set.
Hey, there you go. Oh man, that Vault release. Yeah, we got to talk about that too. But I was gonna say some of the things that those other games. So go check out Ashquest or Amalgam Ash's channel on YouTube. He basically bought a lot of these games and just reviewed them or demoed them on his channel, and I was like, wow.
I've seen some of those. I haven't watched a whole lot of them.
Legend of Zagor is one that has a voice-activated monster thing. Like you press buttons and he says the stuff.
I remember that. I thought that was so cool when I was a kid.
And I would have too if I knew it existed. But there was a variation of it called Legend of Zargon. And it was like one of the just like how the different language versions, but he looks like this undead sorcerer. So but maybe it is kind of like how Battle Masters was called the Claymore Saga in Germany. I think it's like that's a badass name. I love that. Anyway, so Legend of Zagor was one, and then was it Dark World where the figures had like removable weapons? Like you could pull the sword out of the guy's hand in the little figure, and you could put a different weapon in there. I
want to say a couple of games had stuff like that.
But anyway, I just was thinking like, man, as a kid, I would have loved that. Like, especially after playing HeroQuest, like, yes, But man, those weapons would have gotten lost or broken like so quickly. I can just imagine.
It happened to the ones that were the henchman weapons.
Oh, yeah, it's probably a good
that
thing
happened.
Didn't have those as a kid. It's kind of like the commercials for the Star Wars action figures from Kenner. Like they always showed the boys. It was almost always just boys. They were playing, and they were always playing like in sandboxes or in snow or in like leaves. It was like you're gonna lose. First of all, you lost all the weapons. and you got stuff in the joints. It's like, but, and I mean, I never played that way, but it looked like they were having fun. So it's like, all right. And now people sell those packs of weapons, those
Well,
basically
I mean,
bootleg weapons for your figures.
That's a whole separate rant for me because you've got like franchises even more recently than the early '90s or the late '80s that were
You're right.
very popular with everybody. Stuff like Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Oh yeah, I've heard of that.
And of course, I am a pretty significant Avatar, and I never bought any of the toys. I mean, I was a grown ass adult when this show came out.
Hey,
so
Learlek breaks in. Check the WizKids website. I believe they are still making the D&D Adventure system games.
That's
yes,
cool.
Dark World is the game you were trying to remember, Kurgan. Thank you. Yeah,
But,
as we were talking, I figured out the on-screen chat was still set to HeroQuest fans. So sorry about that, guys. Your comments weren't appearing.
But I would I would not buy any of those Avatar: The Last Airbender toys because they would not make a Katara.
Katara.
She is one of the main characters. But they won't make her because, we can't make the girl for the boys' toys.
But see, they don't understand how those games worked when we were kids. Like, you have the group of boys, and you have the
they don't understand
you have the one
anything.
girl. You have the one girl, and it's like, I want to play too. It's like, here, you can be the girl. And it's like, that's why you had the girl figures. So you got He-Man, and you got, Skeletor, and then you got Teela. Here's Teela. Yeah. And they did the... I guess they had the same idea with She-Ra. It's like you had all the women, and then you had like one dude on the team. It's like, hey. So
the thing is, if you dig into the history of that, She-Ra was bigger than He-Man because it was marketed to the girls, but the boys watched it, and they played with the toys.
And you did. As the seasons went on, you did have He-Man show up more often, and Hordak was there. And good point.
Yeah, so, I mean, if you actually market this stuff...
action figure with brushable hair. Boom. Done.
And She-Ra's horse had brushable hair.
Yep, brushable hair. That was the key.
The boys did not give half a shit about the brushable hair. But... I mean, yeah, they watched the cartoon. If
I heard of
their
a few
sister
people
had the She-Ra toys, they would pull out their He-Man toys and they would fight.
Yeah.
Because the girls would fight too.
Yeah. See? I heard of a few people shaving the characters' heads, but I don't think they shaved She-Ra. I think they shaved Barbie so she could be like G.I. Jane or whatever. I guess that was before G.I. Jane, but anyway. Yeah. Memories.
V for Vendetta, the Barbie edition.
There you go. See, they could have made a bundle. So yeah, so Bohemius, you're totally right about that radio silence. I mean, I feel like they had just made that breakthrough. Like it's taken so long from where they started to where they were now, or right before Christmas. We went from just like sporadic weird stuff happening on Twitter. I mean, I'm sure there was probably some rule that like Avalon Bill can just crack these jokes, but he can't really reveal anything until they tell him it's time to reveal the thing. So he would just be like making a silly joke and seeing if people respond to it, get a conversation going. And it's like, we made fun of him for it, but it was like, yeah, it probably wasn't his fault. Then we finally had, and Carmine showing up and saying, hey, by the way, I'm connected to the HeroQuest team. Just thought I should tell you that. And then we started to like, okay, they really are looking for ways to connect with us. And then, we got the Discord and all this. It's like, okay, finally we're starting to get some clear communication.
And that was the thing. There was a lot of concern because in the absence of information, especially when you're dealing with corporate bastards, and let's face it, Hasbro has a history of being as corporate bastardly as corporate bastards can get.
Yep. Mini
You're
example.
gonna assume the worst.
Mini example.
You're
Exactly.
gonna assume the worst.
So I don't want anyone to say, well, toxic fans with their conspiracy theories. Listen, there's a reason we're so skittish about this stuff. There's a reason we're so paranoid because we've been through these shenanigans before. So if all it is us just being nervous and HeroQuest is fine, great. You just got a few weirdos like us in the community and everything's fine. But if there's anything to what we're fearful about, it's like say something, because I feel like this was a topic that came up on the Avalon Hill Discord. Is how do we respond to the company? And I think a lot of people have the idea that, well, vote with your wallet, right? You don't like a product, stop buying it. The only thing with that is they don't necessarily know why you stop buying it. Like if one person does it, yeah, nobody cares. They're still making billions of dollars. Hundreds of people.
Right now, there's
millions.
nothing to stop buying.
Yeah, but it's like
right now they're doing exactly what I want them to do, and I want to encourage them to keep doing. So I'm going to keep buying,
right,
until things start changing. And if I start seeing things change, I will let them know. And
yeah,
if it continues to be, if things continue down a bad road, when it starts to become something that I'm not interested in owning anymore, I'll stop buying.
Yep, I might buy if it's still good. I might buy it used. But here's the thing. I feel like as a fan who appreciates and cares about a certain property, like it's not just junk food to you, where I read it and I threw it away and I forgot about it. It's like, no, I actually invested a lot into this. I told my friends about it. I told my family about it. It means something to my life, even though it's just paper or whatever. It's a two-pronged approach. One, you tell people what you think and why you think it. I mean, as best you can. I'm pissed. I'm angry. Well, why are you angry? Okay, so you do that as best you can. Then you tell the company. And then you make good on it. If the thing is good, you buy it. If the thing is not good, you don't buy it. But I think there's two, like some people will, I'm going to go back to Star Wars, have a flashback. And this was only certain people. This is not everyone. Where people would get online and they'd say, listen, I'm so pissed with the direction Star Wars is going. This is long before Disney. I'm so pissed with George Lucas and all his shenanigans. I don't like it. Let me tell you, this guy has no more talent left. He's
Star
such a jerk.
Wars, yeah.
They would say all this stuff, and then they would say...
Too bad they only ever made 3 movies out of that.
Oh, man. But see, they would say all this stuff, and then they would say, and I'm still buying a ticket. And I'm still buying the action figures, and I'm still reading the books, and I'm still... So it's like, so you've done nothing. So you've told the company, even though I'm angry and I hate your product, I'm still forced to buy it. So it's like, okay, so the company's like, okay, great, well, rant all you want. Like, that's the message you're sending. Because it's like you're saying, I'm so addicted to this brand, I can't stop.
And that is what that is what we are getting with Games Workshop.
Plastic crack. But
people are so willing to put up with the company being
all the companies,
absolute shit.
All the companies do it, so I'll just keep buying these games that have DLC in them and microtransactions. That's all right,
But when it comes to Games Workshop, not all the companies are doing what they're doing. I can go and buy anything Mantic makes. I can just go buy it.
My Mantic box is out of range.
And if it's if it is out of stock right now, they'll make more.
Starship Senior.
And not they'll make more 5 years from now that you can get for 1/2 of 10 minutes before it's gone again. Like, Space Hulk.
Ooh.
No. I can go and I can buy this product, and if it's out of stock now, it'll be back in stock in a couple of weeks, kind of like HeroQuest has been.
Yeah. That's the way it should be. I mean, I know products don't last forever. Like, oh, I want to buy, Stretch Armstrong. Well, you can't buy Stretch Armstrong unless you go onto eBay or something. But yeah, it's like I can go buy Monopoly. I came out in the 30s. You can still buy it. Like, not the same version, but still I can buy it. That's the right thing to do. Well, let me tell you about the other extreme. So you got the people who will buy no matter what and complain. Then you've got people who will stop buying.
Never buy, and they will bitch and complain.
The
and
people
it's like,
well, yeah.
You're not a customer anymore.
Like, listen.
And you've told us.
This game is evil, and I will never buy it. It's like, okay, so you're not our customer. We don't have to change anything because you're never going to be our customer. So, okay, we'll just ignore you. Like, that's the message you're sending there. Yeah, but then you've also got people who will stop buying, but they will not say anything, any reason why. So the company is left to just make up their own excuses. Well, maybe the economy was bad. It was the weather. People like junk food more than they like games. I don't know. They don't have a reason. But if you tell them why, and they can't just say, oh, those toxic fans, they don't have any good reasons. It's like, well, your previous book was more fun because it had X, Y, and Z. There's so many things. So I think there is value in expressing yourself and knowing that they actually do send people out to monitor this stuff. It isn't just because that's the other attitude is, well, I hate what this company's doing, but they're a big corporation. They've got tons of money. They don't care about us. One guy ranting on the internet, they don't care. Oh, he's going to stop buying their product. Ooh, they lost $50. Ooh.
What I have said, and you know what, I kept my opinions about what was likely happening on the Discord, on the Avalon Hill Discord, quiet before Christmas because I didn't want to see chaos reign on that Discord.
And I don't want to see chaos reign there now. So
honestly, it's a little late for that, and you've helped. So
I made it worse, but I know that the new moderators who come in. Listen, if you have to clean house, you do the job you got to do. But yeah, anyway,
I think if they're smart, they will leave it and move on.
Yeah, what's been
because there is such a thing. There's such a thing as over moderating. The time to have stepped in has come and gone.
Yeah.
So you didn't do it then. You move on. Maybe you send a couple of private messages to people saying, "Hey,
listen, Kurgan, can you take a breath between posts?"
Yeah. Don't do that again, please. That made things worse. Please, could you not?
Yeah. Well, I remember even on Ye Olde Inn, which is such a great community. We still have had times. You've seen some of them where
I've been in some of them.
People got into a scuffle. There was a little bit of a brawl, and I mean, I think in the worst case, maybe one or two people left, but that was about it.
It's happened.
Yeah,
it's happened.
But I mean, it wasn't like, oh, and now 50 people are banned, and the site is hacked, and it's not nuclear. Most of the time, it's just like, yeah, you know what? I'm tired of arguing about this too. Let's just move on. Like, all right. Not that big a deal.
I mean, the biggest thing is that I was relatively sure. First of all, I was relatively sure that they got rid of anybody who could actually. Anybody who was authorized to actually... First of all, they got rid of anybody who was authorized to interface with us. That was Chris and Bill. They're gone.
Yeah, they're definitely gone, unfortunately. But do you think they did that to keep them quiet, or they could have just told them
no,
stop talking to the fans?
I think Chris Cox does not know half a shit about any of these games.
Well, he came from... didn't he come from Wizards of the Coast? Am I wrong about that?
He came from Wizards of the Coast, but he was a recent hire at Wizards of the Coast before he became the CEO of Hasbro.
Oh, wait. Did he come from Microsoft?
He came from Microsoft, but he wasn't at Microsoft for very long.
Okay.
Before that, he came from Zynga.
Zynga, what was that?
Now, you're a Luddite, so you don't know who that is.
You're not wrong. I don't know what it is.
If you actually used a modern smartphone, there's a chance you would probably have, over the years, found a game or two that you enjoyed playing to occupy your time between meetings or whatever. You know, you got a few minutes, you're bored, something to occupy the eyes and the hands and not really the brain.
Yeah, that sounds
a game like Bejeweled or, you know, anything like that.
Yeah, time wasters, time fillers.
Any game like that you have ever loved, Zynga has absorbed. They create nothing.
Wow.
They buy other people's stuff, and then they fill it with microtransaction bullshit.
So They take
anything that was fun, and they shit all over it.
Wow.
To maximize its monetization.
Yikes.
Sound familiar?
Okay, so that's...
Ms. Williams is a Zynga person. Chris Cox is a Zynga person.
So that's his villain origin story.
All of these people who are fucking up Hasbro are Zynga people.
But can we
a bunch of them came in.
Can we really blame it all on one guy?
No, we can blame it on Zynga. Their corporate culture, these people got... Basically, Microsoft tried to headhunt some talent.
Because their CEO died. He actually...
And instead of actually, like, ending up with anybody who actually had talent, they ended up with people from Zynga. And Microsoft realized that, you know, that these guys were... And Hasbro's like, hey, let's see if we can steal these guys from Microsoft. And they brought in all these people because they wanted to increase their monetization. And all these people...
Quite evil at times.
All these people... I mean, it probably didn't actually happen quite like this. But I mean, all these people have hopped from corporation to corporation, clawing their way up the corporate ladder. They don't play these games. They don't know these games exist. They don't love these games. The people who... The C-suite is full of people who don't give a fuck about these games. We care. They don't. Well, they're out of touch with us. They're perfectly in touch with investors who are looking for maximum profits. Mm-hmm. But the problem is, when you shit all over something that people love...
Yeah.
You might get a little bit of profit short term, but then you have, you know, things like, oh, there was a video, and I don't know if you showed it to me or if I had already watched it, but I think you've seen it, just listing... It was one done by Bob Worldbuilder.
Oh, yeah. I've watched a lot of his stuff lately, actually. And I gotta be careful when I send you videos, because I'm like, okay, first of all, he's probably already seen this. Second of all, he's going to point out how clickbaity this is. But, yeah, Bob the Worldbuilder.
I watch a lot. Bob Worldbuilder, Bob is one of the most positive people.
Yeah.
There were two people in the D&D space that were just about universally positive. You never see them being negative. And they were Bob Worldbuilder and Ginny D. And you can have opinions, you don't, but I mean, some people do, about whether or not either one of those are really just shills for Wizards of the Coast or whatever.
Bohemia says Zynga is the vampire of mobile games.
Yeah. Yeah.
Zynga is a vampire. Santa Dre.
But, sorry, I got derailed.
I did it. I finally derailed him. I'm so sorry. I'm a big jerk. I apologize. Go ahead.
So,
we were talking about these corporate ladders and people jumping from corporation to corporation.
Yes, and Ginny D and Bob.
And Bob.
Bob and Ginny D are two of the most positive people that I have never seen ever be negative about anything. And they would be like, when drama comes, they're the ones who just shrug it off.
Yeah. And that's fine. Some people are just like that.
And this is a good trait if you are trying to be, kind of a goodwill ambassador for your fandom.
I kind of thought
being
that about,
like them is good.
I kind of thought that about Amalgamash, but I mean, he can have an edge to him sometimes too. He's let it show on occasion.
But these two, both of them. First of all, when the OGL thing happened last year, where
the scandal,
they basically decided they were going to take something they had previously released under basically like an open source license. It was the core rules for D&D, not all of them, but the basic ones, the ones you would actually need to make stuff for D&D, were licensed under something kind of like Linux. So that anybody could take it, use it, improve it, and make their own thing. It wasn't really the full game, but it was enough of it. It was 400 pages of it. And I mean, 400 pages of books that are probably about 1,000 pages, so about half of it.
So this was the OGL, the Open Game License.
Yeah, they came out with a new version of it, or they were going to come out.
Well, and we had 2 rantcasts about it.
Yes, we did.
Yes.
I was there for one of them.
Yes, and that was fantastic.
But when this happened, Ginny D, the positive person who, never seems to... She organized a boycott.
Yeah.
She organized a boycott. And Bob got on there, and he was the most passive-aggressive... I mean, he was still soft-spoken Bob, but, I mean, he was like...
He got pushed too far.
So, how does it feel to be the guy who's destroyed millions of people's dreams and livelihoods? I mean, that sort of just... Ouch.
Yeah.
And, I mean, Ginny's gone back to... Yeah. Ginny's kind of gone back to doing her thing, but Bob's like, no, I've got my 5e. I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to play it. I've got it. There's no reason to stop playing it.
Well, I've got it now, too.
Yeah. But, be encouraging people to check out these other things.
Yeah.
I'm going to encourage people to check out Dungeon Crawl Classics. I'm going to encourage people to check out Shadow Dark, Old School Essentials.
I was really close to getting Pathfinder at one point.
I've got some Pathfinder here.
Yeah.
In fact, I have the box sets for both Pathfinder and Starfinder, and I've got piles of the books digitally. I mean, I've got those books digitally. I ended up with a bunch of OSR books in print, but Pathfinder, the books are they're too much for me to actually read in print, so I'll read them online.
When I look at this, I'm like, this is too much. Like, I'm going to have to slowly learn the game. I would rather sit in on someone else's game, or I would just flip through this and go, hags. Okay.
That's how you do it. That's how you do it.
I'm going to throw a hag into my HeroQuest adventure. Oh, that guy looks cool. Fire giant. Sure, let's use that guy. And then I'd put it back on the shelf. Yeah. But yeah, just jumping in, learning.
Yeah. Join a game. Or watch somebody's playthrough.
Yeah, because I don't want to crunch numbers all day. I don't want to draw maps all day. I just want to have a fun little adventure. And I mean,
a lot of the maps already exist.
Yeah.
And I mean, even for HeroQuest, you've made maps.
Yeah.
It's the same idea. I played both games. I love both games.
Yeah. Well, and in the case of HeroQuest, it's like, okay, you've played a lot of quests. You kind of know how they go. You know what parts you like, what parts you don't.
Sure.
And you can use that as a springboard to then create, your own spin-off on it. Whereas I'm tempted to just kind of hack this up and just take little pieces of it and use it in something else that's
no, totally do that.
in my comfort zone.
Totally do that.
You're allowed to do that because that's what you're talking about. That's what that
Encourage.
GL is supposed
Absolutely. And I mean, for if you're not publishing it commercially, take it right out of the D&D books.
Sure.
If you're gonna publish it, I'd suggest that you stick to what's in the SRD, or
Well, and when you say publish it, you're not talking about like throwing a PDF on like Ye Olde Inn. You're talking about like selling it on Amazon, like that type of thing.
Yep.
Anything where money is exchanged hands.
And that was something that Chris always told us. It's easy to overlook it when money doesn't change hands.
Yes, yeah. When I was at Gen Con, I had printed these up. Those may look familiar to you.
Yes.
But these are homebrew. So
they are.
I was just handing these out like, oh yeah, you bought HeroQuest? Here's a couple of cards, whatever. You can just kind of mix them around and what you got going. So it's like, but if I had printed these up and I was selling them, like, well, first of all, I would that would be a fraud. But yeah, it would have to be. Yeah, it's like there's. What am I trying to say? He laid it out very succinctly. It's like we can tell the difference between somebody who is making a product out of love for their own game table for fun versus somebody who's going to like print 10,000 of them to sell on Etsy,
Yeah. Yeah.
And one where you're just like, just making like minute little changes and ripping off somebody else's work versus, transforming it into something else.
I gotta say, something I brought up earlier was Ron Schertz. Basically the only person who had commercial for sale stuff on Ye Olde Inn.
Mm-hmm.
I reached out to him.
Oh,
he wasn't too hard to track down, and he was sounding like he was interested in releasing the high res versions of his tiles, and people would be able to just use them. But then he heard about the assholes on eBay taking people's cards and just
printing them,
printing them and trying to sell them for top dollar.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't want to see people doing that to my art.
Yeah.
So he was willing to do it, but I think maybe he's not willing to do it anymore because
you ruined it.
Yeah, because these people, these parasites, ruined it.
Bohemia says we can give you a D&D tutorial. See, I feel bad. Bohemius has got all these cool comments, and I got to address them. But yeah, totally.
Bohemius, I'm totally down for getting Kurgan to sit down for like a game of
I'm gonna be
Old School Essentials or Shadow Dark or
run through the
Dungeon Crawl Classic.
You guys are gonna destroy me.
He's got 5e, and he could totally run with that. But I'm thinking start him with something simple.
I've been playing as Zargon for years, so I've got a major beating coming. But yeah, I would love to learn it. Yeah. Okay, so
thing is, definitely feel free to start with something simpler. 5e has a lot of flexibility and a lot of power. It is not the easiest thing to learn, and it's certainly not the easiest thing to learn to run.
I've been watching a lot of different videos from a lot of different people on YouTube, a lot of D&D channels, not just the memes and stuff, but it helped me to hear.
The memes are the best.
The memes are great. I can identify with a lot of them, even though I haven't played this game. But it helped me to hear. There was a video. I'm trying to think. It was like Two Dudes Dungeon or something. Is the name
Dungeon Dudes?
Dungeon Dudes. Yeah, they were talking about cheating, like all the ways people cheat. Like they'll say, "Oh, I got a 12," and it's like you just moved your hand. But it was a funny video because they were talking about ways people cheat at D&D. But they were talking about how like the rules are very complex and people make mistakes like all the time.
Yeah,
like even experienced. I mean, I was thinking of like just the HeroQuest adventures. Like I start to get tired and I like my math doesn't work anymore, and I'm just like, you've got 300 gold. No, 250. No, 300. Like I'm like, what? I don't even like. I scratched the thing off on the character sheet and I think it's still there. It's like, your mind plays tricks on you. It's like, okay, I'm getting old here. I'm getting tired. But yeah, the fact that they're admitting that we're human and these are complex games. So mistakes happen, but it's
Sure.
not the end of the world. Everything doesn't come to a crash, like divide by zero. It's like over. It's like no, you just
So if you want to
move on.
read some comments, I will
Yeah, I'm notorious
mute
for.
myself and then basically run over to the fridge to grab another drink.
All right, thanks, iKarith.
So
Uh,
I'll let you read comments, and I will make sure that I'm within earshot.
Nice. Okay, well, yes. So Bohemius has some great comments here. He's talking about I had the honor to be killed by Gygax. So Gary Gygax. He was special guest to an Italian convention and was killing everyone that sat at his table with hordes of goblins. I think that's so cool. That's so cool to hear. I know that he has passed on, and there's some drama in the D&D community with people saying, "Oh, this guy was out of touch or whatever," and we don't need him anymore. And it's just like, what? It's kind of like hearing about people, not wanting to talk about Walt Disney anymore. And it's like, yeah, but without him, there wouldn't have been a company. I mean, it's just weird. But yeah, whatever else you want to say about him, the guy loved games. He had a lot of cool ideas. He wasn't always right, but that's really cool that you got to encounter him. And I mean, this whole thing with like game conventions, I mean, that predated Gary Gygax, but I mean, he definitely encouraged that, fostered that, and brought that into, more of a mainstream area than it ever would have been, maybe before that. I was reading those books where, it was talking about H.G. Wells and his wargaming, like when they first came up with wargaming, and they had those spring-loaded cannons that they would fire at lead soldiers and knocking them down in fields or on the floor in the dining room. And, grown men doing this, and it was just like, oh, this is really cool, because you're playing with toys, but it has rules, and it can become like a simulation. And I mean, H.G. Wells was a very anti-war guy, and yet he was making all these war simulations. And you could see there's a little bit of things in there about the futility of war, but whatever, real life war is pretty bad, but the games are still fun because they engage the mind. It's competition, it's bonding, it's fun. You can play it with your kids. So yeah, that's a really cool story. Also, Leorlex says, one-page rules is not actually just one page. Well, fair enough. Simple, yes, but not actually just one page. Front and back, double spaced, single space. Page for the base rules, page for each army, and honestly very kind of limited. Still, though, I mean, compressing it down from like a 100 page. Well, let's see how many pages. This is the monster manual, but 342 pages. Dungeon Master's Guide, 320 pages. Player's Handbook, and a lot of this, there's appendices and stuff. Let's see, what is this? Oh, there's character sheets. 316 pages. HeroQuest, 21, 22, 23 pages. But even if it's just like one page and then maybe 5 pages, still, that's my biggest thing with starting a new game is I get really intimidated by the rules. I just want to rush through them. I want to skim and start playing. And I make a ton of mistakes when I play that way because I'm so impatient. But then, you really enjoy the game. You go back, oh, okay, here's this rule I misunderstood, or oh, I should have read further and I would have seen this, and then you read it again and then you play it. That's just how I've always learned games. And I know that if you play at one person's table, they may play things a little differently than somebody else. I know with GMing, there's so many ways you can be a GM, so it doesn't have to be, or a DM. It doesn't always have to be the same style or whatever. You don't have to be Matt Mercer. Next up, Bohemia says if the leaks are true, the D&D HQ crossover is already planned. Well, that's what I was getting at with the Cristobal stuff, Guarida De Morcar. If his sources are reliable, then yes, there is some type of D&D HeroQuest crossover coming. But I think if they did do it, the right way would be like a one-off or a team-up or something like that. that would be the right way. The wrong way would be to say, well, HeroQuest is over and now it's the D&D universe. Like they end the world somehow. They just stop doing HeroQuest entirely and everything is D&D. It's like, why? Not everybody is going to want to play it.
HeroQuest could be a plane in the D&D universe or multiverse or whatever. You could totally do it.
Yeah, in lore, you could connect the universes. Why? So that you could have an official excuse to just blend stuff whenever you wanted. But the idea that one has to go away and the other has to continue, no, because they serve different functions. Like this was supposed to be a game for 12-year-olds to use their imagination and create big maps and tell big stories and crunch numbers and do all this stuff. HeroQuest is
ages 37 and up for some stupid ass reason.
Yeah, 9 and up. But with HeroQuest, in theory, you play the quest, you're done in an hour, if it's one of the base quests, and then you're like, that was good, we're done, let's do something else, or that was pretty good, let's play another one. Okay, so you sit there for another hour. Versus this, where it's like 4 to 6 hours, 8 hours, 10 hours. I mean, granted, maybe the 8 hours is a lot of goofing around and eating, Cheetos, and maybe 2 hours of actual gameplay, arguing about stuff. But it's a totally different kind of experience. And yes, you could simplify this down to HeroQuest. You could take HeroQuest and complexify it up to this level. Either way, but the way it's handed to you, I think, is totally different, and it appeals to a different kind of game experience that someone's wanting to have. So you could have HeroQuest and Advanced HeroQuest, or you could have D&D and the D&D Adventure board game. You can do both. But yeah, I don't know. I just hope that whatever they do, they're not gonna, I don't know. What we've seen happen with some other franchises where they say, "Oh, you know what? The fans, you don't understand what you like anymore. Let's just take this thing, let's sweep it aside, and give you something totally different."
I want to say it was Battling Barrow Games, very small YouTube channel, but he took Advanced HeroQuest. It was either him or Always Bored, Never Boring, but I think it was Battling Barrow.
Battling Barrow I'm not familiar with, but yeah, go
on. Very small channel. He took the rules for Advanced HeroQuest Dungeon Generation, and he slightly tweaked them.
Okay.
Basically, he tweaked them so that
room tiles
hallways were a little shorter and dungeons were less sprawly and more filled in.
Okay.
So he mostly got rid of, he mostly rescaled 1 corridor, 2 corridor, 3 corridor down to 1 or 2. And it was basically just so he could fit more on his table.
Yeah, because, you're thinking, okay, this dungeon is just going to go off the table. So Bardic Broadcast. I was worried about that. Like, okay, I want it within
that was his solution. Well, obviously, Bardic Broadcast would suggest that the solution was simply to start building vertical.
Yes. Gravity Land. Yep.
But
Bohemia says Kurgan would be an awesome master. Well, thank you. Wordicon. Sorry, just got
to show off how Shadow Dark is played. Kelsey Dion she got a couple of her moderators and friends together.
You keep talking.
To show off an example of play for Shadow Dark. And I very much recommend it for you because it is literally just an hour. They got through half a dungeon, but I mean, they were totally screwing around, as you do. So they only got through half of this dungeon in the hour playthrough. But it would give you a good idea of how D&D is played. And, I mean, there's a lot less, in Shadow Dark, there's a lot less, roll for investigation. You say, I'm going to check the walls for secret doors. If you're checking that wall for secret doors, and there's a door there, you're gonna find it. So I mean that's just an addition thing. That's how things used to work.
Find that door.
By 5th edition, there's roll an investigation check. Are you a rogue character? A rogue character has a special ability to detect these things, but anybody else can just roll an investigation check to see if they find it. What's your passive perception? It's when you play in Shadow Dark, it's just like, oh, you're checking the thing that has the thing that is there. Okay, you found it. But I mean, aside from that, she's basically teaching people how to play D&D.
Nice.
There is the because her games go faster and she simplified. And this is a thing that you could actually do with D&D. The thing about D&D is
my games are slow.
Because it's a little like HeroQuest in that at your table you can play it how you want.
Yeah, I think my games are slow because I use a lot of house rules. I do a lot of banter. I wait for people to respond online. So there's reasons. And also the quests that I've chosen to play are like the really hard ones that have like 4 times the monsters, and I refuse to like dumb down the quest. I just preferred to power up the heroes so they could actually like stand a chance. Like, okay, you want to play the final level of Doom? Well, give yourself all the weapons and now go for it.
Okay, so we've had some rant time, and I imagine there's more stuff we could rant about. But
yeah,
before you really got the Discord going in the first place, we had some of those. We had some base game quests that you and I played together.
Yep, we played in Zoom. We had a couple people join, but I think you were the most regular of all the people that we played on Zoom.
So the thing is, I had not actually been able to play HeroQuest since the 90s. And
when you next time you sneeze, you got to turn it into Rant Cast. Yeah, you hadn't played since the 90s,
and what I played were the UK rules because that was the version I had.
I still want to play the UK rules on the stream sometime.
It's fun.
Yeah. And the Japanese rules. I mean, there's so much to do. I mean, we finally got to Rogar's Hall. I was like, yes. But anyway, your story.
If anybody from Avalon Hill is in any way listening to this, I said before, if you made Neef Island, I would buy it.
Yes.
Please consider including a little leaflet. You can do whatever you need to do to pull Neef Island into the lore of HeroQuest. But include a little leaflet that explains the origin of what this game was like, that this was the Japanese version, and includes the Japanese rules so you can play it the way it was played.
That would be so
I know that is so not what you guys normally do.
Yeah.
It is something that would be just, for the average, person off the street. It does not have to be fancy. It can be printed on freaking copy paper. I don't care.
But I want it.
I'd love to see that in the box so that people who got the Neef Island expansion can be like, okay,
this was the original.
I can actually play. This is the Japanese version with the Japanese rules. They're different. They're weird.
Like a supplement.
But you know what? I'd like to play by these rules sometime and just see what the game is like.
Yeah, as opposed to having to track it down on the internet. I mean, I would like to see...
We can totally do that. We have done that. We've translated these rules from Japanese. It's on Ye Olde Inn. Frankly, the copyright is yours.
His bizarre guy.
The translation is there. Go read it, and
I love.
You might need to retranslate it.
Grimdead.
Whatever.
Is it Grindead or Grimdead? We think it's Grimdead because that's what it says on the map. Yeah. Yeah, I would love that. Now, if any of the Star Wars fans out there remember the making of Star Wars, what's the guy's name? Dave Rinsler, I think. I may be forgetting his name, but there were these big comprehensive like coffee table style books, and it was like
Oh yeah.
the early script drafts, the sketches. I mean, back in the day, we had the art of Star Wars. That's what it was. It was like, scripts, behind the scenes stuff, early stuff that had changed in between movies, lore that had changed. I love seeing that stuff. I would love, and I would pay a premium price for something like that with HeroQuest, a glimpse into the designer diaries from back in the day,
Oh, that'd be cool.
prototype stuff, early debates that they had, rejected ideas. That would be so cool to read about a game I love, even if none of it, is really workable anymore. But how cool would it be to have a sample of, here's an alternate rule set that existed, and you can try it out, see what you think of it. So Wardicon says, okay, he's getting into HeroScape, and that's why I brought this big pile of toys to talk about next real quick. But let me just go over the comments. So Learlex says, Nightbird, post that request on Avalon Hill's Discord. Nephi
I will do so.
Pack and Origin intro plus rules.
I'm gonna wait to do it until things calm down and we have like moderators there.
Yeah.
I'm sure it will happen eventually.
So after they've deleted all my posts and banned me, then you can come in and be like, oh.
I was very careful in how I phrased things. I said, that they would eventually, that they were probably reading, but they would probably not take any action unless things were really over the top. But I'm not actually, and I didn't say I'm not sure if they actually can yet, but they will. They'll sort it out. But once they actually decide who's going to actually interface with people, who's going to take over those social media duties, who's going to talk to us basically, and how much.
Yeah.
Once that happens and things are settled down a little bit, I will post it.
Awesome. Please do. Yeah, it's not that we as fans are so needy that we need somebody to babysit us and calm us down. It's that when it's so small and the information we get is such a trickle that when all of a sudden it stops, it's like, what are we supposed to think? And like you said, this is under a parent company that's had some scandals and some incidents and some problems, and we're a little justifiably paranoid about it happening to our franchise. So that communication, and just from a simple business standpoint, it makes sense to say, hey, customers, you've spent money with us before. You're probably wondering what the next product is going to be. Well, let me tell you about it, or let me give you a sense of what it is, or let me solicit your feedback on something. That's a really good thing to do. And yeah, it takes some manpower to do it. Might take some planning, but it can be done. And I don't know how many millions and millions of dollars you were spending to send Carmine to our Discord chat to say stuff, but I'm sure you can afford it. And it has a good result. It's a good investment.
Just a little bit of
across
communication.
Yeah, and our community may be tiny on the internet. I don't know how big it actually is because I don't go to the Spanish forums or the Italian forums or the German forums.
And it's way bigger than any. I mean, the people who are buying this game
are not on.
If it was
Twitter.
just us online on Twitch and on Discord and
maybe
Twitter.
24,000.
If it was
people.
just us, then it would not. This game would not have made it to retail.
No, it would just be a one-off thing. Like, okay, well,
yeah, it would have been the pulse and done.
A bunch of entitled rich fans just bought a collectible. Isn't that nice? Now let's move on to the next thing. But clearly, no, it's not. And
G.I. Joe NFTs.
Yeah, people
are gonna be hot.
I said this to Carmine a couple of times. Every day, someone is waking up and saying, "Wow, HeroQuest is back." That game I played, back in the 90s. It keeps happening. So, yeah. Well, what are you going to do for those people? It's very important that you get them in because, yeah, they can talk to us and we can go, wow, this company that screwed us over. I mean, or we could be like, yeah, HeroQuest, go for it. You know, if they don't help you into the community, we will. You know, we'll do that. So let's see.
So I started telling the story.
The story
of so we started out because Kurgan did not realize that it had been so long since I'd actually been able to play.
Yeah, your story
and that I had
played
by
yeah.
That I had played the UK version, so I was totally unprepared. We ended up starting with Quest 7.
Yeah.
We were looking for Wardaws.
I did that deliberately because I thought I had heard you say, well, I played 1 through 6, and I was like, oh, well, I know.
No.
I'll just continue.
I said I had played about 6 quests. I'd actually missed the first couple.
Oh, okay, yeah. So I could have just started at the beginning. It would have been fine.
You could have, and you did after we played that one.
We went out of order, yeah.
Yeah, we went back to some of the earlier ones, and then we go and you know, because I've already had some of the later stuff.
Well, I also remembered people saying, well, the trial is so hard, and I was like, yeah, I remember that being really hard, and it's like, well, what if it wasn't the first quest? What if it was like, yeah, you'd done a few and then you did the trial? But anyway.
Yeah. But so we did that one, and then we had the second one, and you know, we ended up going back to rescue the damn dirty traitor. And when we found him, you were using a different map, so he was buried pretty deep. But we found him.
Mm-hmm.
And then you had every round, there were 2 orcs coming in the stairs.
Reinforcements, yep.
Reinforcements because I mean, I had gone through and finding this guy, I had mowed down everybody who was already in the dungeon.
And I thought,
but you had planned.
Anticlimax. Yeah.
Yeah, because you figured it was likely that was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So you wanted to give me a little bit of a challenge because this wasn't my second quest starting out with. I had freaking crossbow.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, my barbarian and my dwarf was like, let's fucking go! With a crossbow.
That's more like it, yeah.
The barbarian had a big ass sword. They were knee deep in blood. There was at least a dozen orcs dead. They were just like traipsing over their entrails.
It's funny because I was going to say you killed 14 orcs, but I think it was actually 12. So it's like one of those stories that grows in the telling. They killed 100 orcs to get to that door. Oh, and tell them how you actually accomplished the mission. I thought that was funny. You remember?
In the end, we had a couple of potions and a couple of spells, you know, for like haste, and we had haste, and we had
pass through monsters.
You know, passing through monsters and walls, and you know, we had potions to basically have this traitor.
He wasn't a traitor.
Able to move very quickly and go right through things without worrying about it. And we basically just, in one turn, had him move halfway across the map and out the stairs to stop the reinforcements. And then we just cut through what was left of them. Because now we had a countable and limited number. We could deal with that. And we just mowed them down.
Yeah. But I mean, what an epic moment. And see, those are the moments, and I'm so glad you brought that up because that was a game.
We had a couple of others.
Yeah. Oh yes,
we
had
Ulag. We go and find him,
mm-hmm.
and he's by himself. And I decide to use one of the house rules. We're going to try the parlay deck. We're going to parlay with this guy, and we basically talked him. We hadn't fought him yet, so we talked him into And Kurgan's getting ready for this like epic boss fight with. I don't even know what you had planned to make him a little more,
a little stronger,
a little stronger, a little more of a challenge for a not brand new party. Mm-hmm. But we got lucky with the parlay deck, so he was just like, "All right, I give up. Take me back to the Emperor. I'll see if I can figure out how to escape later. I'm giving up. I'm not going to fight you guys." That just ended that session. And then the elf was doing elf things. I don't know if it was the same adventure, but that was the other one. He was doing elf things where he was searching for treasure and getting ready to run from any actual fight like a damn dirty elf. And he pulls a wandering monster, and it's this orc. And for some reason,
that'd be orc.
My dice rolls were my dice rolls were generally I would roll skulls.
You were using the HeroScape dice.
I was using HeroScape dice, and for some reason same distribution as the HeroQuest dice, but for some reason I was throwing nothing but skulls. So I would always hit and hit hard, but I would always get hit hard because I always managed to roll skulls for some reason. And then I would roll for movement, and I would always roll 1 and 2 for movement. So my movement dice were terrible. My attack dice were great. My defense dice were terrible. So we pull out this wandering monster, and Kurgan's dice rolls for attacks were terrible. So you got this orc who wants nothing more than to stab this elf, who deserves it because he's an elf, and he just can't do it, and eventually he gets cut down by somebody else. And
is that how it happened, or was there a card that like eliminated the wandering monster? I'm trying to remember.
No, we killed him.
You killed him, okay.
But then in the next quest, the elf manages to pull another wandering monster. It's still an orc. And you commented about, where, because it was like, where the hell is this orc going to come from? And you said, he popped out of the wizard's hat. And it's like, did he just come back from the dead or something? And we ended up naming this orc. His name was Bob.
See, I thought, and I thought it was, yes. So I forgot about the hat part, but it was like he was off. He was gone so quick that he was a ghost, and he didn't realize he was dead. So he kept following the elf around, trying to stab him. He's a spirit.
This time we killed him really quickly, and Kurgan just described, because we just killed this guy.
His ghostly sword is just going through.
The ghost of this orc, Bob, was just following along, trying to ineffectually stab this elf. It was all he wanted to do. It was his one goal, was to stab elf. Got to stab elf.
Oh man.
In some of these other early adventures, we had lots of fun with these.
Yeah. Between quests is like, he visits the local cleric, they exercise the. But I was thinking, okay, as soon as that hero dies, and it's like, okay, if he's in the same afterlife, it's like cracking his knuckles.
Oh no. Well, I came up with how that ends, but I was going to tell about the other thing first. With we open up a door, and inside is somebody, and I think it was a goblin and a couple of orcs.
Could have been.
And the goblin got upgraded to be like an elite, and you gave him like a crossbow, and the wizard was the one who opened that door. And the wizard's like, fuck it! Nukes this archer with a crossbow from orbit.
It's the only way to be sure.
And the barbarian, who's right behind the wizard who did this, I'm like, I hope he wasn't a friend of yours! And Kurgan says, he owed me 3 gold pieces.
It's always what it is. Man. Good time.
So, as for how this ends with the elf, basically at some point, a few hundred years from now, the elf is going to die because that'll happen, or maybe sooner in an adventure he'll die, and he's going to find himself in the afterlife, and the orc is going to be there, and he's going to say that he is happy because his friend is finally here. Oh. And the elf is going to be confused as hell because he has no idea what's going on here. But the orc is going to try to explain it as best he can, and that, you know, all he wanted to do was to stab his friend so that, you know, he would notice him. And the two of them would end up basically having like a buddy cop movie in the afterlife.
Sounds great.
See, after all the ranting, I figured that, you know, we needed to actually have some positive stories, and these were, you know, before the Discord really got going, and before I had all the shit that I've been doing. Yeah. But
well, and I got to be careful, because I send you those videos, and it's like, yeah, you know what? He probably doesn't need this right now.
Well, the thing is, I end up watching most of these.
Yeah. You probably.
I mean, my thing, I don't have the bandwidth for like politics of the world anymore.
Yeah, no.
I got too many friends. I got friends from all over the world and from places where it's dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
And
our problems don't seem that significant.
Our problems don't matter much. And the thing is, I know people on the left. I know people on the right. I know people from both Russia and Ukraine.
Oh, wow.
I know people who are Palestinians. I know people who are Israeli citizens.
Wow, yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, these people I know, their governments are trying to kill each other. I know people from South American countries where their governments are basically the local cartel.
Yikes.
I've gotten to know a lot of people, and they all want the same things. So,
puts it in perspective.
I can't anymore with the politics. But
we get stuck in our own bubble and we forget.
Yeah,
things.
Yeah,
like
we do.
That other people do have maybe bigger things, more immediate things.
But there is one bit of activism that I do. The corporations of the world have decided that we will own nothing and be happy. And I will only be happy when every single corporation who has that attitude is lying in ruins. I'm... Yeah. My goal in life is to basically be a thorn in the sides of such companies, and to make their lives a little more difficult, and, you know, to basically throw a spanner in the works anytime I can.
And this guy loves his life, just so you know. He's fine.
This is the one area of politics that I deal with, is, you know, stuff like right to repair, and
sure.
So, you know, if
a lot of people just don't know, like they just kind of
Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast want to make stuff that is worth having and is, you know, respectful to the customers and the fan bases, I am happy to buy it. I'm happy to buy, you know, the HeroQuest stuff that I know is coming. I don't know what happens later, but the stuff that I know is coming, I'm eager to have these things, because I didn't have all of them when I was younger, In fact, as I said, I had the UK rules, and the only expansion we had was Keller's Keep.
Ah, Keller's Keep.
So,
Man, that one rubbed me raw. That was
that is a hard expansion.
Well, and I understand why they did it too, because I remember people to this day do it. Oh, HeroQuest, it's such an easy game. It's so easy. It's boring. It's like, oh, okay, well, let me just twist your arm and stomp on it with my other. It's like, dang, like Keller's Keep.
Only played one of the I've only played one of those quests from Keller's Keep,
and yet. As many dirty tricks as they pull on you in that one, it's nothing compared to what's to come. Yeah, go ahead.
And I don't know all of that quest because TPK.
Yep, it happens, and Zargon's got to remix it.
And we were, and I mean at this point it was 30 years ago.
Yep.
It was a TPK.
Total party.
And my party was prepared.
Didn't matter.
It didn't matter. It didn't matter. You weren't prepared enough. No. So I didn't have all those expansions, and I'm glad to have them now. I downloaded a bunch of them with the intention to print them, but that's the thing. They don't need to worry about people downloading the old version of the game and printing it off ye old in. It costs more to do that than it does to buy the new game made in 2021, 2022.
I think you can get all the expansions for like $100. That's if you really use cheap. I mean, if you're using like nice paper and like if you're doing 3D prints, forget it. It's going to be hundreds of dollars to do that. And if the expansions are like $45 and you've got like nice stuff in it, there's definitely still a reason to buy. And I want to support a company that I think is doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Even if I can get the thing for free easily, I will go out of my way to buy it, to spend money on it and say, this is worth it. And I'm going to recommend it to people. And I think that should matter to a company. That's
I've brought up Shadow Dark in particular because it was so much like the rules that I made for to play D&D without owning D&D. I consider Kelsey Dion a friend. She has been awesome. I've talked to her directly. I mean, I've worked with her directly on solving a couple of problems. She is awesome. And I mean, she is part of a 2-person company. I backed Shadow Dark at legendary level, which meant that I got a copy of everything, and I got 2 copies of the book, one standard and one, ultra premium, thicker paper, synthetic leather cover with like embossed foil printing.
Italian leather.
It's really nice. Really nice. And I'm very glad I did this. But again, I mentioned earlier on, particularly when it comes to books, yar. But I bought this because I want to support the author, and I think it's important to support the author.
I
the mega publishers, I don't care. But
I know
the authors,
a lot of people are mad at Games Workshop, and rightfully so. But I did order a copy of the reprint of Rogue Trader, the original 40K book. And I'm only doing it because of the background
will make
for Space
stuff.
Crusade. Yeah. But it's a print to order, it's a limited run, so it's like,
If they will actually make stuff available so people can get it, and they will say, if it runs out and people want more of it, we will make more.
Yeah.
We will take your pre-order and you'll get more of them. They're on the way. If they would actually seriously do that, I'd say buy from Games Workshop. They're a small enough company. It's worth supporting them. Yeah. I don't know about the pricing for the stuff they just came out with and the fact that they're only supporting half of the armies, but whatever.
The few times, I mean, people have given me 40K stuff. It's like, here's some orcs. Practice your painting. I'm like, sweet. And after Christmas last year, well, not 2023, but 2022, they had a 50% off sale at Barnes & Noble, and I was like, Fire Team. Well, I didn't really want this game, but I'll paint the miniatures, add them to my Space Crusade, and that was my thinking behind the 40K book. But one thing I wanted to say, well, yeah, go ahead. Sorry. Say your thing, and then I'm going to talk about HeroScape.
So when it comes to, again, with the thing is, I think it's so important to support the people who create this stuff.
Yeah, and
I don't care about the big publishers.
Tell them why you're doing it. Support them.
I know.
It's like doing the customer survey.
Kelsey's book is going to wind up. In fact, probably most of the people listening to this know of a group on Telegram. I don't know where they are. I know they're there, and I'm not gonna go looking for them because I don't need to. But I know they've got it. They've already got the book. They haven't put out a release that contains that book yet. And I mean, like, if somebody releases something with that book before Kelsey gets a chance to actually, like, get her physical books on her website for sale, you kind of don't have much. She can do what she wants to them, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I don't know if she could or would even bother, but once she's actually got her book up for sale, whatever happens. But up until then, like, I hope people leave it alone. And I'd say that for literally, again, I consider her a friend, so in that case. But I'd say that about, like, anybody. Like, let them have a chance to actually get their thing out so that people who want to support them can. And I hope that people will. My shelf is full. First of all, I have one of those IKEA Kallax shelves, and like I've got 2 or 3 shelves now that are, depending on how you want to count it, that are just HeroQuest stuff.
Wow.
Just packed full of HeroQuest, because I've been buying everything as it comes out.
Nice. And
I've got 3 copies of the original game.
Gravity.
I have 3 copies of the original game.
You and Bardic Broadcast can have.
Yeah. But then I've also got, another one of these shelves is occupied by OrcQuest, because badass.
Yep. Okay.
Our god badass.
Hey,
but then I've also got shelves that have
so many people who have OrcQuest, and I don't have OrcQuest. So it's just like, listen, your mom's making stovetop. You're inviting me over. That's what's gonna happen.
I hope they manage to get that so that people who didn't pick it up.
I pledged. I didn't actually pledge, but I said to the effect of, if this game comes to retail, I would gladly buy it. If it's under $200.
It's right around $200.
And see, that would be my condition. Now, I do have a few problems with it. Like, it looks like it's a giant box that takes like 5 minutes to open.
2 boxes. It's huge.
Okay. Tell me this. So on Amalgam Ash or Ashquest's channel, he and his wife, you get to see his wife on the camera, they're opening the boxes, and they cut away before he actually opens the box, so you can't get an accurate read on how long it takes to open the box. But I'm going to guarantee it takes longer to open that box than it does to open the HeroQuest, original box. I mean, from 2021, because it's like there's so much air in it. You're like lifting it. You're like lifting
so
it. And then you've got all those little tiny like chits and all those like cards. It's like, okay, listen, your mom makes stovetop. You set up the game. I'll come over. It's already set up. And when we're done playing, it's like, hey, you guys gonna help with the cleanup? Listen, gotta go. I just, I remembered I got a thing. It's like, dang it.
OrcQuest is.
It looks good.
The size of a Kallax cube, 13 by 13 by about 13. It's designed to hold records.
Okay. Thank you for explaining what that was. Yeah, we have records too, but I didn't know that's what it was called.
But the IKEA cube shelf. like the standard. Everybody has these things for their game storage. HeroQuest comes in 2 big ass boxes, and they take up an entire cube by themselves.
Wow.
1 cube, 2 boxes for this game.
I should get some of those boxes because I am starting to collect. I mean, I have 2 copies of Space Crusade now. 3 copies of HeroQuest. Well, one of them I was going to get from someone, and I ended up not.
I would love to either get a copy of Space Crusade, or I would love to actually have a. I would love to have a solution to easily, basically, build a proxy set.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm working on. But the problem is, if I make the board is going to be bigger than my table. Because I was going to make a board. Well, here's what okay, I'll just tell you. So the computer game of Space Crusade, some people like better than the physical board game.
Yeah.
It takes a little more risks and everything. But the maps within the game are actually bigger than the board game. So I was thinking, okay, I'll make boards that are big enough to make the computer game into a physical game. But then it's going to go off my table.
So,
and I was going to use Fire Team miniatures, like, you know, the Space Marines and the Necrons, and I was going to use the Gale Force 9, Glorious Day in the Core, Xenomorphs as the Gene Stealers, and I was going to use Battletech mechs as I can't think of the name, Dreadnoughts. So
do people
and I've
for
orcs,
the computer game
orcs, yeah.
Do you need the full board that is bigger than your table out at once?
Probably not. So you probably could hot swap it as you.
So the way you do that is
tile A, tile B.
And I was starting to suggest this earlier. Dungeon Craft. He basically takes that insulation foam, the pink stuff.
I've got some foam boards. Actually,
he cut a big circle out of it, and then he will do one side. And, you know, he's doing fantasy gaming, but you could do this sci-fi as well. He'll do one side is 1-inch grid. Not that he plays with a grid, but 1-inch grid, just so it's like stone floor. And he's actually moved to rings, but you might want to stick with a grid because you're thinking about it for games.
Yeah.
He actually builds out one side as a stone floor. The other side he builds as bare ground. And he's got a bunch of little scatter pieces also made out of foam or,
a lot with foam.
Other things. He's basically built like pillars and archways, basically doors, pillars, a couple of low walls if you need them, other things that might be in the space. Basically, the HeroQuest furniture, essentially.
Mm-hmm. Of course,
and
the 3D printed stuff I was showing off kind of puts all that to shame, but. No, that's
it does.
I've seen people like there's a friend of my brother's who's a big gamer, and he has just taken just foam, and it's like you paint it, you scuff it up a little bit, you cut it with a knife, and it looks like stone. It looks like plastic.
It does,
and it's like wow,
but
okay, great.
The reason why I'm talking about this thing is. All of this stuff is stuff that will actually withstand even the foam pillars because you're coating them with basically Mod Podge mixed with paint as your first. So it makes them hard and pretty durable. So you basically you set up a room, stuff happens, people move out of that space. You just reach over, sweep everything off of it, and then. Set. We're ready to go for the next room people move through.
The only problem would be the way Space Crusade is played is that you have those multiple Marine
It does
factions.
sprawl a little bit. Yeah, it does sprawl just a little bit.
So if everybody decides to take a different course, now if everybody stays together, yes, it works. But as soon as you split the party, quote unquote. But it's also, how's your German? There's StarQuest as well.
My ability to read German is not. My ability to speak it is non-existent.
That's like 2 red dice. Zwei rot Würfel. So I'm learning a little bit.
My German is limited to words that, words that I could totally use on this stream.
But yeah, you always got to learn how to curse in the language, and the people are like, please don't embarrass me. Okay.
Especially German. It's so satisfying.
All right. Well, I got to say this now. I'm never going to get to say it, but it's been great having you on the stream, first of all. And okay, I have spent tens of dollars on these micro minis, and yes, I gave my money to Hasbro, Destroyer of Worlds, but I also gave my money to Mattel, Destroyer of Worlds, their competitor. Actually, a lot of these are from third parties, so they got their money, but they just didn't get it from me. But check this out. Okay, so this is HeroScape.
Yeah.
As I have played it, I played the beginner rules, and I was like, this is really simple. Like, I can play the advanced rules, so that'll be next. But yeah, this is an official. It's like bendy plastic, really nice.
Sure.
These are the tiles. You can 3D print these easily enough. But check this out. We got, it fits. So here we got Power Rangers. Power Rangers. Now, where's the Yellow Ranger?
Power Rangers totally fits with with HeroScape. I mean, you could totally do that.
The battle of all time. The whole point is you get all these mismatched armies and you fight together. This is totally a game invented by kids. Like, they stack their blocks up and then they had their army men and their dinosaurs fighting each other. It's like, perfect. Now we'll just add dice and here we are. Okay. And I really wanted to get these guys. So here we've got He-Man, Masters of the Universe. It's a surfboard.
Nice.
It works. The first ones I got were these, Kung Fu Panda. And yes,
nice.
There are fans who've created rules for these guys. And it's just like, what are they?
Okay.
They're Shaolin monks.
So. If you see another one of those Kung Fu Pandas, especially if he's got a hat, I want a Kung Fu Panda.
All right. My mom's making stovetop. You're coming over. I'll have it set up by the time you get here. Because these do take a little while. But I will tell you, I was playing with my niece and my nephew, like, they were not interested so much in, like, crunching the numbers, but they wanted to build the world. They were like, well, can't we just add a few more? I'm like, well, no, we got to get into the game. I'm like, well, let's build this mountain over here. Like, you're playing with blocks. So, yes, it's tedious, but it's part of the fun. Just like buying stuff between quests and HeroQuest is part of the fun. When you think about it, it is. It really is. So, okay, so we got all this stuff, all these mismatched. So you can have the ultimate showdown of Ultimate Destiny. Yes, you've got these. Now, these are all plastic minis. Notice there's no base, but who cares?
Yep.
Still works. They have
you
metal.
can 3D print a base.
They call them nanos. They're metal miniatures. I've seen them. They have DC, Marvel, Transformers, Minecraft, probably some other ones.
Sure.
But they're metal and they're like painted with like enamel paint. And it'd be really easy to like repaint those. So I didn't bring them here, but I think they're actually out of my car, buried in the snow. But anyway, Jurassic Park, or Jurassic World, excuse me. So you've got dinosaurs, got the Incredibles. No, I didn't grab Shrek. Not as big a fan. I know Shrek is love, Shrek is life, but got DC there. And when you think about it, HeroScape, I mean, they had the base set, which is what I have, because I bought it after the HasLab campaign failed from a really cool guy in Board Game Geek. There was a master set that included Marvel superheroes. So it's kind of like already, it's already there. So
there were all. I mean, like the stuff that we are afraid that Hasbro might do to HeroQuest.
Just put it.
They already They already did it in HeroScape. It works. Have fun. Do more, please.
Yeah. So just shunt it off into the place that it goes. Put it in the HeroScape bin instead of the. Well, the weakness or the I don't know, the greed factor for a game like HeroScape is the way they designed the game. You have, I forget what they're called, but there's rare figures that are heroes, and there's
Yep.
common figures that are, I don't know, cannon fodder. So it's like if you couldn't just buy a bunch of packs and it's like, well, I got 50 heroes now. It's like, nope, you got to buy, I don't know. I'm trying to think what it would be.
It's like, well, when you buy a pack,
You gotta buy lots of these guys, but only like, a few, like only one of these guys. So you buy the pack and you've got like, or whatever.
Oh, when you're proxying, yeah.
But you can change. The thing is, you can change the rules. You're not bound by that. But I guess HeroScape was a tournament game, and it's going to be a tournament game again. So you're going to go to a tournament. You're going to go, hey guys, I got the power range. Nope, you can't use that. Like, okay, fine. I'm going to start my own tournament, and you can use it in mine. But
see, the thing is, they could make that work because there aren't too many different things that there aren't too many different things that these guys could actually do for special abilities. So if you have like a menu of these abilities are worth these many points, because I mean they kind of abstract that in the basic game.
Yeah.
But the advanced game does actually, you can build whatever you want as long as you stay within the correct number of points.
These guys can jump up mountains is like a thing that they can do. They can jump a certain number of levels. It's like a leap. But yeah, otherwise it's just a melee guy. Like that's all he is. The basic rules. But I could see the proxies working because you're just like, yeah, I know these look like cartoon characters from a movie that came out a long time ago, but they're Shaolin monks, okay? All right, we agree. And then assign it to each one. This is the master, and these are all the, regular ones. I don't know how you would do He-Man, but I mean, he's a barbarian of some kind, so I'm sure there's a warrior out there that you could use as a proxy for him. Superman, okay, can you think of any Marvel superheroes that can fly, that are really durable? I mean, you just pick something like that. Transformers. Are there any robots in HeroScape with guns? I'm sure there are. I
mean, if there aren't, there could be.
Yeah. Dinosaurs. Oh, I've definitely seen dinosaurs before in HeroScape. Again, more superheroes. Superheroes or martial arts people. Or they could be the Krav Maga, like those agents that have their abilities. Many robots. Never underestimate the Minecraft generation. Yes. Yep. Cost me a bit of coin, but they work well. Oh, Wordicon says, the Transformers I used for HeroScape were from the 80s. They were a PVC line that lasted maybe a year. Oh, that lasted a year. I was thinking like they fell apart after a year. He means they sold them for a year. I see one for Dark Company. They can all be who they are as well. Yes, that's absolutely true. It's like, listen, and I was saying, what I meant by that is, this is, what's the guy's name? Monkey? I haven't seen the movie. Shows what I know. But yeah, whatever this character's actual name is, like, yes, he is that guy. But the rules that he would use would be from like a Shaolin monk squad, and he would be just like a regular monk. Like that's how you could translate it. But I mean, who made the Shaolin monks? I think the Shaolin monks actually were an official team or faction for HeroScape, whereas some of these other like homebrew ones are just, somebody just decided these would be cool rules. They passed it around the community. People copied and pasted, But you could put all kinds of things on these little tiles and use them. So that's what I got. So yeah, and these are like from dollar stores basically. So yes,
Mm-hmm.
after they're no longer sold in the dollar stores, they're more than $1, but not much more. So as you can see, I've accumulated quite a few of them. And actually, I went online and I bought some of these Jurassic Park ones, but I accidentally bought like one that I was looking at. I don't know what I was thinking. Like, don't do this. Don't buy stuff late at night. Because like I placed an order and it's like I already have these. But then I thought, well, they could be common. You got two of these dinosaurs. That's these are commons versus heroes. The unique dinosaurs. So anyway, but yeah, HeroScape is another game where I don't quite have the table space to do it. But I will say that HeroQuest fans is going to be doing, and it's possible, if we can make it work, we're going to try to do maybe possibly a monthly guest stream where we have like a nice studio with more room. And we can actually do some of these fancier game arrangements that we don't normally get to do. But I think the next one for February is going to be HeroQuest. We just have to decide what it's going to be. And I kind of have a few ideas. I was thinking Crypt of Perpetual Darkness, because we haven't done that one. We haven't done any of the Mythic stuff, really. But how could we possibly finish 10 quests in an evening? And I don't know if people would be able to survive that much of a marathon. I don't know if I could survive it. But we could give it a shot. But then I thought, well, what about the European rules? What about the Japanese rules? I mean, I'd like to do the Forsaken Tunnels of Zorzel. I mean, there's so many things I'd like to do, but we got to start somewhere. So we'll figure something out. We'll choose it, and maybe we'll use the 3D board again. And whoever shows up, we'll just play it off like we always do. Well, iKarith, it's been great. Thank you to all of our audience. Thank you for coming to the Rant Cast. And tomorrow, the plan is, like usual, well, I think I may be snowed in, actually. But tomorrow, the plan is to do Mage of the Mirror on HeroQuest fans. And then Saturday, once again, we'll try to do Rise of the Dread Moon. But Strange Bus, we didn't get your Star Wars dose of Star Wars this time. And there's a lot to talk about in the world of Star Wars, but we'll save that for when he's here. So, any closing thoughts? Welcome to the D&D world. Still there? Nightbird, are you there? I think he might be muted, or maybe he signed off. Well, anyway. Oh, here we go. Well, and there's a connection between HeroScape and Magic the Gathering, which I probably need to research more. Wordicon says, on the HeroScapers page, I found a printout of every character and their stats and abilities. I used only what was provided in the game to make my homebrew heroes. I never made up my own powers because I didn't want to break the game. I made Dragon Ball Z, Star Wars prequels, Transformers, Avengers, and Justice League, all very balanced. Yes, Rey is not a Skywalker. Thank you, Bohemius. Rey Palpatine. Rey Ren. Yeah, there's rumors about the next movie, and it sounds very hokey. The thing is, when you hear Star Wars plots, they always sound hokey. So a lot of it is in the execution, but yeah, it definitely sounded hokey. All right, guys. Well, we'll see you next time. Definitely check us out on HeroQuest Fans Discord. We'll talk about stuff. Yeah, maybe take the advice that
Pretty much.
Okay.
That would be my advice. Chance to let things figure out who the hell they're going to put in charge of that, and how they're going to talk to us when once that happens. I'll suggest what they should do with Neef Island.
Bring it back.
Yeah, definitely want to see it back.
Save the dream. Giving me some ideas. Hey, thanks, Wordicon. All right, well, it's been a great Rantcast. Thanks, everybody. Closing thoughts, iKarith?
I guess just, remember that, particularly for us HeroQuest fans, but it kind of applies to the D&D folks as well. We're kind of a family, and
families fight
don't
sometimes.
we fight sometimes, but at the end of the day, we're all still family. Take good care of each other.
Yep. Yeah, and I think that bond is definitely with the fans. Like, if it comes to a fight between the company and the fans, I'm going with the fans.
Yeah.
Sorry, / not sorry. Yeah, and I mean, that doesn't mean every fan is always right. We've covered that before. Toxic fandom does exist, but I think it's overplayed when people use it as an excuse to hide behind a couple of bad people, bad actors, when there's legit criticism to be had. Drink some grog. Well, the funny thing is, I did have some leftover sparkling grape juice from New Year's that I was sipping earlier, but it's all gone. Let's go to the last drop. Grog. All right, guys. Well, thanks everybody for checking us out. We'll go ahead and end the stream. If there's anybody we can raid, usually there isn't. It's just maybe some AI shenanigans that we jump in on. But Rant Cast. Yeah. Let's crank up Karl Casey.
See, that doesn't play for me, but
it does on the main.
Flames. Have a good night, everybody.